We'll see.
Okay.
Well, I think they emailed it to us, but I had a chance to read it. Yeah, no, I saw that. So there. That'd be probably a good report.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement to make. Mr. Reggie, would you stand up, please? Ms. Valerie? Would you come up?
I guess I get fired too.
Not getting off easy.
No, you can't get away that easy. I just want to let everybody know from the hard work and dedication that these two people put in along with many citizens and many volunteers. Congratulations, you have won the District 7 Cleanest City Contest in your population category. I want to tell you, it's been a long time since we have accomplished this goal. And just want to commend everyone who has put in an extra effort in making this happen and accomplish it. The note reads as this, is please keep up the good work as you will be preparing for the state judging between May 17th and May 24th. It's always a pleasure to visit Crowley. You have every reason to be immensely proud of your town. I'm attaching the combined score. I don't have it with me, but I do know the combined score was a total of 95 out of 100. So we scored really, really well with a couple of little minor things that we'll make adjustments on. And I'm very proud of the team and all of what they've done. And it says, thank you so much for the food tray and the little goodie bag. And it was a very much surprise, and we did not expect it. And we do appreciate the hospitality that Crowley gives us every time we come. Again, congratulations to everyone who participated. Yes, sir.
I'll just say thank you too, because you helped out with a lot of stuff. And of course, Valerie, and as you said, it's a team effort, so it wasn't just myself. But I do appreciate it.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. Thank you. And of course, we have some people that came out both weekends, and we just want to remind everyone that it does not stop here. We continue to do that, and we'll continue to offer through City Hall, and we're going to have some cleanup days in the very near future if people want to participate. Thank you again. All right, Public Works, Mr. Grader.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the Public Works Committee. Everyone is present except Mr. Vernon Martin. Under reports, we'll start off with Mr. Albert John, the Public Works Director.
Good afternoon. Only have two more that are out for repair. Other than that, everything is okay with these ones. We're starting to get ready for the mosquito season.
Get close to it, or hold it to you. There you go.
within the next 3 to 5 weeks, we'll be spraying for mosquitoes. I haven't seen any yet. The latest reports I got today was in the southwest portion of the state. Cameron and South Calcasieu, they're starting to have some solicitans come off. And those are marsh mosquitoes. But I will monitor them, and we'll see at the next committee meeting. Any questions?
Anybody have anything for Mr. John?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Does the
Yes.
city contact City Hall if they, like a citizen, if they have mosquitoes in their yard?
They can contact City Hall, they will call me,
Okay.
okay? If I can get out, I'll go inspect,
Okay.
okay? Until the population gets large enough. Last year, we started spraying June the 9th. Year before last, it was the 1st of June. That's why I say 3 to 5 weeks. Looks like anywhere from the end of May, last week in May, to that first 10 days of June before we start to spray on a regular basis. Okay?
I have a question. What's biting in my backyard?
Do what?
What's biting me in my backyard is mosquitoes.
What is?
What is? Yeah.
It might be midges. Yeah. Okay. The thing is, I can't go in your backyard. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. John.
Thank you.
Next up, the street commissioner, Mr. Gilbert Ozing.
Good evening. Report for April 21. On the grass cutting, I-10 bridges, all the islands, all parks, all neutral ground was cut. We picked up trash, debris on side of the roads and apartments. We installed a welcome to Crowley signs at North Parkinson and Southeastern Avenue. Repaired potholes around town, installed culverts with our new ordinance at 711 West 6th Street. We dug out ditches, we washed out the pipes, we cleaned and painted the curbs around town also. The removal of 7 trees, and we assist the outside contractor, EL Abbott, with running the cameras on Mill Avenue D for better drainage.
Well, I guess we need to thank you and your crew too for the clean city stuff.
Thank y'all.
I have a couple of questions. One question, last week, we discussed all the street signs, and the mayor said that he was gonna have y'all doing an inventory of all the signs that need to be replaced. How's that going?
We got some of them down, but as you know, with the Clean City contest, it kind of set it back a little bit to get ready for all that, you know. But we got about 75% of it now.
Oh, good, all right. And there was 2 openings. Have those been filled yet, or?
One
Still-
has,
are you still short?
no, not the others.
Okay, so you're just 1 short now?
No, I think we 2, because, one quit the other day.
Oh, okay. All right, still short.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody got, yes, sir?
Skilbert, there was, an inquiry about 2 live oak trees along Parkinson Avenue in the 1300 block that were along the state right of way. I spoke to Brent, and he indicated that DOTD may cut those trees down.
I was on vacation when all that occurred. He briefed me on it, and DOT had not got back with him.
Okay, and, I think there's another issue with the drainage pipe.
Right.
Below there, that,
Right.
is that something that the city will be cleaning out, or is that a DOTD?
We'll look into it, but if we can, we'll do the best we can to try to clean it out. It might be full of roots and everything.
Right.
You know, a lot of it might have to be cut up and broke up. And I ain't jumping into DOTD just like talking about.
Sure, sure. And of course, and I just want to clarify, they have jurisdiction over the trees within
Right,
their
right.
right of way. That's not a city, so.
Right.
A lot of concern about, city workers could
Right.
cut down
Yes, sir.
live oak
So we
trees.
can assist them, you know, if it's necessary.
I'm sorry.
We can assist them if it's necessary.
Speak,
Oh, yes,
speak
sure.
real close to the microphone, get really, really close. It's all, but you gotta get close, really close to it.
We'll be kissing it.
Okay?
So, yeah, what you're saying, you will assist.
If necessary.
Yeah, sure,
if-
sure, right, but it's the state's determination if the tree needs to be cut down or not.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else from Mr. Gilbert? Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Appreciate it. Next up, we have Mr. Tim Mater, city engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe you all have a copy of my written report, and I'll call your attention to a few items. On page 2, the subject being the drainage and street improvements projects. If you'll turn to page 3, you'll see that at the bold B in the left margin, I have partial payment estimate number 11. This month, the contractor requested that we defer payment partial payment number 11 until the June meeting, so I will present it at June and cover the months of April and May. No action. If you turn to page 4, the subject being the street improvements project and bond issue, you can see there at the bold G in the left margin, I have an update on contract A. Contract A, I'll remind you that we're receiving bids, and the bid date is set for May 28th, unless it would need to be extended for any reason. I don't expect that. Then we would come to council at your June meeting with a report on the bids and a recommendation for an award. What I have there for contract B is just let you know that we're working on the plans and specifications for contract B, and we won't go to bid on that project until after probably August, September. The item beginning at the bottom of the page, at the old H in the left margin, city-owned parking lot improvements. Update is on the next page, page 5. We have partial payment estimate number 2, and so as of April 30th, contract is 41% complete by time, 15% complete by cost, and partial payment estimate number 2 estimates the total value of the work through April 30th is $334,116.98. We have retainage for labor and material liens retained, so the total amount of partial payment number 2 would be $164,716.58. And I would ask that you take action to approve partial payment estimate number 2 in that amount.
Moved by Mr. Byron Wilbridge.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ford. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Another item that has to do with the parking lot improvements, that's at the top of page 6, where you see the bold J in the left margin. We had reported to you last month that we were going to come to you with a change order to change the design of the old swimming pool parking lot to allow for green space that would reduce the contract amount. I still don't have that amount, but I will have it for the exact amount, but I will have it for your meeting next Wednesday. And I can tell you that you can take action tonight to approve change order number 2 to the contract with Triton for that project. And the estimated cost of a reduction of $135,000, and so the estimated total revised construction contract amount would be nearly $2,150,000. I will give you the precise numbers, but I don't expect the reduction in cost to be less than that. Don't expect the total construction to be more than that. So I would entertain a motion.
I'll move it, Fred. Seconded by Mr. Wilbur. Discussion? Ms. Rinko?
Yes, I have a question from the last thing that we passed. How many parking lots at the ballpark are complete? Is it just the one by the tennis court for now, or?
100% complete, yes. I don't think the old Gladiatorial parking lot's been striped yet. It may have been overlaid, but not striped. And I think we're gonna get them to go next to Hens
41% completed we're talking about? Or is that something else?
41% complete is the time used, 15% is actual cost.
Oh, okay,
Cost percent.
okay, all right,
There's a gap there that we think they'll catch up on.
okay.
A lot of that has to do with two things. One, the weather, and the other is that there's more cost involved in the asphalt than the base. So once they do the asphalt, we'll catch up with that time spent.
I can tell you, they've been doing a lot of work at Mustang and Bronco, the one down Mustang Road. They've been hauling in gobs and gobs of limestone, packing it down. So they've been doing a lot of work there, for sure, I know. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Those are the only two action items I have. As always, if you have any questions about any of the status report I've given you in writing, let me know. Call your attention to one last thing, no action item, and that is on page 14. Railroad spurs at Parkinson Avenue, that's been on the list for a long time. Now we're getting to the point where that work has to be done in contract B, the one that they were designing right now. So I renewed contact with Bill Shrewsbury, the DOTD engineer that's in charge of this railroad crossing removal program. And he just emailed me back this afternoon to say he needed to talk to me. So I don't have anything to tell you other than the 3 spurs between the BNSF main line and Mill Street. We're gonna target those for removal so we can, in the overlay project, we can smooth out the grade.
While you're talking to them, maybe you could talk to them about the spur at Miller Station that goes through there. We'd like to remove that.
Oh, yeah,
That's
that's
pretty
a good point.
And across the road.
Will do.
Thank you.
No action, and that's the end of my report.
Anybody got anything else for Mr. Mayor? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
We have no action items to discuss, but under discussion items, at the request of Alderman Tim Stringfellow, discuss work orders and why the council does not get follow-up emails regarding the resolution of work orders. Notification of resolution of work orders has been a problem for 2 years. Who would like to address that? Anybody? Mayor?
Okay, as you all know, it has been a problem. I don't think it's been 2 years, but it would be close. It has been a problem. I would like to report that their new computer system is getting ready to go live, hopefully in about the next 2 to 3 weeks. And hopefully we'll have all of this resolved at that point. I'm not sure about this particular item to be resolved at that point, but we expect to go live along with training in about 2 to 3 weeks.
Thank you. In discussion item number 2, at the request of Alderman Stringfellow, in reference to the citywide drainage project, she recommends the city clean out ditches for better drainage and references the Huffire Park area, which floods constantly. Would like to discuss that.
Okay? I'll do it again.
Again?
All right. So let me tell you, as Gilbert said earlier, and as he says every month, we work very hard at trying to clean out ditches citywide. And I think they've been doing a good job. Of course, it's a little bit slow sometimes, and we're moving forward, and we do get a lot done. As far as the parks are concerned, Huffire Park was addressed to me and to Mr. Brent by Alderman Cavell a little bit ago. I say a little bit ago, not today, it's been a couple of weeks, and we're addressing that along with South Crowley Park. And they both have the same issues. Over the years, there was a sidewalk that was placed on the perimeters of each park for people to walk. And there was a drainage system with PVC pipe that was put underneath the sidewalk. So what we're gonna have to do now, because of all the accumulation for so many years, has built it up, and it's all stopped up, and it's a very difficult task. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut the sidewalks and to allow drainage with some covers to be able to walk over for not a trip hazard. And that's what we have in the works right now.
Ms. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Chair. Mayor, what are we doing with all that piled up grass by the ballparks?
That-
The grass that came off of the ballpark.
And I'll tell you what, I'm gonna let man who can really answer that question for you in just, and when we get to his report, we'll allow him, since it's a new question. That's not.
I mean,
on the
because that
agenda.
may be something to look into with these parks that flood, you know, if
Well,
we
it's
have.
not, you're thinking of it, but it's just the opposite. What happened is that those pipes for drainage that were there are now covered. So we can't put more grass, we need to take out.
No, yeah, I'm saying like, you know, raise the park up so it doesn't flood, you know. And then we also need to clean out a lot of those ditches around there. I mean,
That's
you know,
correct.
That's a major,
That's correct.
and I also wanted to ask Mr. Mader if that area was on, and I didn't see it on the drainage project.
It was not, but something on the order of 15, maybe 20 years ago, we constructed, I say we, the administration at the time constructed an outfall from Huff Power Park along the south side of 14th Street, all the way to the railroad tracks, which is the outfall that will carry that water to the bayou. It's very possible that that system has been obstructed or silted up over time. I would suggest that in addition to whatever else you do, that we look into any backwater that's a result of that system being clogged up. And it's a good outfall. Before that was done, it was just the usual system of driveway culverts, open ditch, driveway culverts, open ditch, street crossing, you know, repeat. At that time, the project removed all of those driveway culverts, roadway crossings, and had a consistent fall with growing diameter in the culvert design all the way to the railroad track ditch. So it should function, but it's been a while, so it's very likely that it's just been stopped up and it's not giving you the best service that you need.
Because the 14th project is complete, right? So that would help with that flooding area there. It should,
What 14 project?
the drainage there, or 14th, 15th area.
That's a long way from Huff Power Park.
Okay, what were you talking about, and where would we need to look at?
Between Huff Power Park and to the west, the Acadiana Railway tracks, that ditch alongside of the Acadiana Railway tracks goes all the way to Bayou Platinum River. It is the outfall, and I'm saying 15, 20 years ago, we built an outfall for Huff Power Park and from the park along the south side of 14th Street, all the way to, I think, Buac Street, which is that street to the west. So that was a system that was installed, uniform drainage that you don't see too often, but it did function well for many years. So I suspect there's an obstruction that's causing some of the problem with ponding water in the pond.
Okay, so we may need to look into that.
Yes, I
Okay,
would definitely want to do that.
okay.
Yes.
Lyle's asking how far, it's probably 6 blocks. Like that.
Mr. Bell,
The obstruction also could be outside the corporate limits of the city, correct?
I don't think so. I think all that's in the corner.
It is, but if there was an obstruction on the continuation of the outfall,
Oh, along the tracks? Possibly, but that's all over the ditch. So
Okay.
it's not likely to be the type of obstruction that I'm thinking of on 14th Street.
okay.
Yeah, it's all culverts between High Power and Buac. Across the street.
Mr. Ricker, I think that's probably what Mr. Hanks has called you about, called you about, everybody, that we're not right in front of his house, but it's right
Yes.
across the street,
Yes.
and he's complained about that many times. So maybe he has a valid point, you know, about that could be.
I'll look at it with the mayor.
You can come up to the mic. Please state your name.
Hey, the grease with that. I have pictures of drainage right here. I walk these streets every day. I have pictures of the drainage and why the problem is, why we have a problem with drainage. It's right here on my phone. If I show it to you, you can understand what I'm saying. Fast, they want to talk. But this council. Yeah, by the water tower. The canal by the water tower is completely covered with grass. Grass and trees and leaves.
It's kind of stopped up on both sides.
That's the big ditch, big center ditch.
See where the bridge is going. On both sides. I walk the street every day, and I took pictures of it. That's one side. That's a whole tree in there. That's the other side. There's a whole tree in there. Oh, what can pass that tree in there?
Okay.
I walk all around West Crowley. I walk the whole entire area. I walk jog every morning. I jog from down Capitol Road around 90, all the way to the court circle, back around, down Parkinson, and I turn on 10th Street every day. I jog it every morning, and I pay attention to everything on the street. I pick up the trash everywhere,
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
and I just want you to understand,
Absolutely. We didn't get your name. What's your name, sir?
it's Regis for dead.
Mr. Ledet.
My grandfather Nelson J. Arsenault.
Awesome, awesome.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ledet.
I just wanted to see you.
Absolutely.
And I do it every day.
We just so happen to have a member of the Drainage Board on our council, Mr. Brad Ford, and we'll be able to address it with the Drainage Board.
And unfortunately, Mr. Gilbert, I think, left already, but we'll be sure to let him know.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I'll get with you tomorrow morning, and Gilbert and I will take a look at that outfall.
All right. Are there any other legal items to come before the committee? Committee recess.
All right, thank you. Next is Utility Committee. Mr. Martin's not here. Mr. Reggie?
Thank you, Mayor. Up first, we'll have wastewater superintendent Tim Prater.
Good afternoon. We currently had, we received 163 Louisiana one call locate requests and 40 work order requests. In your, that was for the month of April. At each one of your desks, there's a packet with some pictures, and I'll explain
Take your
those.
mask down, maybe. You take your mask down, maybe. There you go.
I passed out a copy to everybody.
Mayor, we need to get Mark to come check out that side.
Hey, yours is good. Yours is good.
And I have the microphones turned up too, so
It's
it's
a
gonna
short.
probably seem loud at some, and maybe we might just be having a problem. Just try the best you
Okay.
can, as close as you can, Tim.
All right, so what we have, what you're looking at is, clogged pumps. The top two pictures on that first page are the same pump. Two different angles of the pump. The bottom one on the left is the other pump at that lift station. What you're looking at is, flushable wipes, rags, plastic bags, things that shouldn't go down the sewer, even though it's marked flushable wipes, this is what happened. These two pumps were pulled 2 weeks ago. This was the end of April. Midway of April, these same two pumps were pulled. If you look close at the picture on the top left, you'll see that one bolt. That's all that was holding that bowl in that pump to come up. So we're fortunate to get it up without having to send a man down there to get that. The picture on the bottom right is a pair of jeans that was disposed of somewhere, made it through the system up on the north end of town, and that completely stopped the pump. I mean, just shut the pump down. It gets wrapped around the impeller on the inside, shuts it down. Please ask your constituents in your district to refrain from flushing anything that shouldn't go down the line. Because it creates a lot of problems. The main lines get stopped up. Eventually, their service lines start backing up and it gets.
Does it have like a overheat sensor or something? that
Yes,
shuts off
yes.
all-
It'll overheat and send us a signal and shut the pump down.
Okay.
Most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't pick it up and it just
burn the pump or it'll shut down completely, and we won't know until we get the alarm. We've had a lot of issues where the public has poured fats, oils, grease, and then they call us and they mad at us because their line is stopped up on the city side, but grease will travel a period of time before it starts closing in and blocking that line. We're just asking the public to do a little better and refrain from throwing that. The next page is some retirement details from Trojan UV, which handles our UV disinfection system. Yesterday and today, we had a guy from their company come in and do an assessment on our UV system, which included changing burnt bulbs, valves, sleeves, O-rings, things of that sort. During that investigation, we have about 12 modules, which is individual. The module contains 8 bulbs each. We have about 12 of them in one bank that are out. We're still equipped to handle the flow rate going out the plant for disinfection. We're still within our permit. The items listed in the detail A, they're still available and will continue to be available for the foreseeable future. Items listed in detail B are still available, but once the stock runs out, you won't be able to acquire them any longer because they're not in fabrication. Items in detail C are upgrades and are made to order since the original items are also no longer in fabrication. According to our rep, who I spoke with recently, she had trouble acquiring certain replacement parts for this system we have. Hopefully, we can continue to get by. I don't know how long it's going to last. That's where people read it as you go. The last page, the last couple of pictures, we were called last week by Peter at Recreation. You'll see the Oscar Johnson Drive picture. There's an X mark on that page. He had a hole that developed over the weekend prior during a term, I guess, or hit it or something. But during our course, you'll see what on the last page, the pictures there. When we arrived, they had barricaded, put the cones out to keep cars from going. You see the blue paint mark right there in that top left picture, along with the one in the bottom left. And the bottom left shows you a general idea where it's at in accordance to Mill Street. We excavated the hole. The middle picture at the top, you'll see the water line. It's a 12-inch water main that was installed in 2015. That information was received from Ben over at Walco. Under the pavement over there was bored. It appeared maybe the borehole was bigger than the pipe they installed. The picture on the top right, that first shovel to the left, almost in the middle of that picture, is where the hole was. Our sewer line runs through their water runs through our sewer now. But we dug up away from the water main, so we wouldn't disrupt anything, and capped our sewer line there. And we also capped it up where the swimming pool used to be, to avoid any other problems there. We also put a cap, a screw plug in the line coming from this area to the manhole, which is, if you look on the main picture, it's on there. We, after we smoke tested, that's how we found that our sewer line had been hit. We went ahead,
mapped everything, we contacted Lawco. If you look at the bottom picture in the middle, there was roughly, give or take, 6 to 10 inches of hollow space between the gray, clay-looking mud, dirt, and the, black chaff, dirt. And the, picture on the far right, they went in and they dug it up, because I felt unsafe having my guy on top of their water line. So they went in and they compressed all the dirt and sealed it up. As of, I'm here now, everything is closed up, it's good. They're able to use it for parking. Me and Peter will get together in the morning and monitor that and look at the area we have blocked off. There's a 8x8 square on that front corner of the bulb out that we're gonna take care of in the morning. It should be good to go for parking. Ben, with Loco, also dug a hole to his water line between the little island that has the trees and the bulb out. And he did not see any void on top of his line on that side. It's our understanding that during the excavation of the new parking lot, they're gonna be going down a certain depth. And we'll encourage whoever's gonna be doing that, just to double check where that water main goes along there, so we don't have any catastrophes. Because that water will break, they'll know it quick. Last, I wanna thank my staff. Simple reason, we've, can't find people to work. We're down 3 people. And, we're gonna ask the public just to be there with us. We are gonna get there. If you call in the morning with a stop up, if we're on the dig, it may take a little bit for us to get there. Just be patient, we will take care of you. We do have after-hour people on call. So if anybody, that would like to work, call our office. And, we'll be glad to sit down with them and see what they have, tell them out. Anybody have any questions?
How does that affect the bathrooms around there? It's good?
Yeah, they're good.
Okay.
The line that, was damaged was a non-serviceable line. It was an abandoned, line from along the sewer,
For the
swimming
swimming
pool.
pool,
Was
okay.
gonna be closed down.
Okay.
That's all right.
I just want to request a copy of the packet of pictures I was given, because that wasn't included in the packet. All the pictures and the descriptions, I didn't get that.
I'll pack up pictures.
Yeah.
All right, that works. Yes, sir.
And that's a $9 an hour, positions that we're talking about, or what are we talking, so we can give you a little publicity here?
We have to, depends on their experience.
But the minimum, I think we said,
Starting pay 9, depending on licensing, CDL, things like that. We'll do our best, and I'll give it to the mayor. We go from there.
Anything else from Mr. Crater? Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
I was just wondering if you advertise a position in the newspaper or online and so forth, just to get the
Okay,
word out.
so let me go to that. We did advertise on Indeed.com, and we ran an article in the paper on a Wednesday and a Sunday. And we did get some response from Indeed, but those were, from out of our area. We did interview 2 guys. Our pay does not, qualify in their lifestyle. With our newspaper, we did not receive any applicants. I periodically checked with Julie in personnel to see if she's received anything from Louisiana Workforce, and none. And it's a tough situation right now. So, anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
next we'll go to City Engineer Tim Maker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Reggie. You again have a copy of the written report. I'm going to refer you to page 16 where it begins for the Utility Committee. The first item that I want to present to you is on page 18. And if you look at the item B, the commuter replacement project, as reported there, we are proceeding with the development of plans and specifications. We were informed by DEQ that, as in the past, they would like us to send them a formal amendment to the contract, our master agreement with the city that would bring this project into the master agreement. And they always need to see a contract for design if they're going to fund the design. So what I'm asking you to do is to authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 5 to the standard form of agreement for professional services for the installation of a commuter at the City of Crowley's main sewage pump station. So again, it's a one-page amendment that makes that project a part of our standard contract.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, go to page 19, item D, the LCDBG fiscal year 2020-2021 project. There's good news. If you look at the very last page of my report, it's under attachment E. You'll see a letter from the Office of the Governor to the mayor. And it says the fiscal year 2021 LCDBG grant application for $1,600,000 has been approved. There is going to be a workshop that we'll attend to find out what the next steps are. But one of the next steps would be to sign the engineering and administration contract. You've already approved that, so now that the grant is offered, we'll get the mayor to go ahead and execute that contract. And that's another amendment to our standard form of contract. No action necessary. It should be the last page in the packet, looks like this.
So is that just for the commuter, or is that just 1.6 million? Would that include the UV system that we were just talking about also?
You know what, I jumped the gun. That 1.6 is to rehabilitate sewer lines I jumped the gun, I'm sorry.
Okay, so that's just infrastructure.
It's in the list.
I was so anxious to tell you about the grant. The commuter project, which is what we covered already, that's the capital outlay project. So this is the LCDBG project, which is a sewer repair citywide.
Yeah, it does. I'm sorry, it does mention, this meter does have it in there as far as for the sewer collection system, which is primarily composed of gravity clay lines.
Right. And again, no action because you'd already authorized the engineering contract about a year and a half ago if you received the grant, and you have received word that you will have the grant agreement forthcoming. There's some steps that need to be taken, and one of them is we'll have to submit a copy of the contract to the Office of the LCDBG program.
So somebody just texted me about, did I understand from y'all that the streets are blocked off at Domino's? Did we discuss nothing about Domino's streets being blocked off? Are they? I think they just misunderstood.
I'm gonna be honest with you, the streets in West Crowley, all the streets are blocked up. Let's tell the truth, though. So let's put that on record right now. So yes, we talking about Domino too.
Oh, okay, I was thinking about the pizza place, I'm sorry.
The Domino Club on Second Street, they talking about.
The streets blocked by drainage or?
It's blocked up by everything. Every ditch in West Crowley, and I asked Mr. Main about it. He's saying it ain't got nothing to do with filling up the ditches for curves and stuff like that. But if rain fall, if I spit in West Crowley, it floods. And nobody in this doggone room talk about West Crowley. Period. And that's the problem with this council.
So for clarification, the question was, and no, the street's not blocked off. It's, evidently it's maybe a drainage problem in that area. Is what Byron is saying. So could we look into the drainage problem there? That's on Second Street and Avenue C.
Yeah.
Is it at that intersection?
Yes.
Because that's a, Second Street's a state highway, so we need to get with them as well.
True. You right.
Okay, the next item would be covered in your action item on your utility committee agenda. That has to do with your sewer user fee ordinance. Mayor, I don't know whether you want to explain what this is about, to address the request of the police jury and the sheriff's office.
Well, actually, it's up on an action item tonight,
Right.
and all we're doing is setting a date, and then it'll have a public hearing and a discussion plenty of time.
Okay, on page 21, if you look at item F, I'm explaining what that's about. The police jury and the sheriff's office have requested that they be exempted, or an exception be allowed in your ordinance, that they not be considered for the sake of sewer rates as an out-of-town customer. And so the ordinance is only about that, I should say the ordinance amendment is only about that item, allowing the detention center sewer user fee to be applied as if it were in the city. And you do have, again, it's coming up as item 3 on your utility committee agenda, but there is the resolution and the proposed introductory ordinance in the packets. And Mayor, I assume that it will be introduced, as you said, next Wednesday, and there's no action to be taken.
That is correct. Just to set the date.
Just letting you know that it's coming. And that's all I have for you today.
Okay, so under action items, to consider a resolution introducing a proposed ordinance to amend and reenact section 10-30, division 1.5 sewer service user fee charges to provide for an exemption for the Acadia Parish Sheriff's Office and Detention Center facilities located on Capitol Avenue, and to call for a public hearing regarding the same.
I move as read.
Second. Any discussion? It's just to set a date.
If you'll notice on your packet, underneath that, in your packet, it shows where the public hearing date is already established, June 9th. It's in your packet on the next page.
And that's the regular Wednesday, correct?
Yes, regularly.
Any more discussion? Oh, Desi?
Yeah, I have a question, because I thought when we did all this sewer user stuff that the sheriff department was exempt from that stuff. I thought that was in there, because I remember questioning something about that.
Mr. Chair, we're discussing setting a date.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Any more questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there any other legal items come before utility committee? We will recess.
Thank you, Mr. Reggie. Next is recreation, Mr. Freeman.
Thank you, Mayor. Recreation will convene. First, we will have Director Peter Kirsch's report.
action items, I'd like to make a motion to approve the application payment for from EL Habits Builders for the Crowley Rice Festival renovations for the amount of $57,970.53.
Okay, do we have a motion for that? Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Second action item is to approve architect Josh Huff Howard's recommendation of the final administrative change order for the Rice Festival building renovations and repairs construction contract with EL Habits Builders to include a reduction of AV allowance by $5,000 and additional days due to material delays, roof issues, contingent upon facility planning and control approval.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion as read.
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion.
What's the AV allowance?
Sound system.
Jeff? Any other questions on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Third action item, to authorize the mayor to execute the certificate of substantial completion for the Rice Festival building renovations and repairs construction contract with EL Habits Builders contingent upon the facility planning and commission, control approval.
Motion?
As read.
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. My report. Since the last committee meeting, I did receive a budget estimate for relighting the field at Martin Luther King Center. The budget estimate was $95,000, and that's reusing the fixtures and components that they can from the Mill Street location at that location. So that's not a quote, that's not a bid, that's just a budget estimate by an electrician that we called, and he went out there and assessed the state of what we currently have out there and what would be needed to get it lit up using what we have. I do have one other trick up my sleeve. I hope to have that by next committee, but I am working on other options in that. I just found that to be a little high, in my opinion, to install components of lighting that are 10 or 15 years old. I think if we're gonna invest that kind of money, we should look new and warranty and those things. But I do have another trick up my sleeve and hopefully we can come up with a better number for you next month. Any questions on that? Okay. Our youth baseball and softball practices are underway this week. We're in a 4-week delay from construction, and this all stems from weather that we've started fighting way back in November. The kids are gonna practice for about 2 more weeks, and then we're gonna start our games, weather permitting and construction going smoothly by the end of this month, and it'll continue through mid-June. We're still waiting for the 4 Hinskins fields to be lit up by geolighting. I'm being told, again, that it'll be Friday. Met with the contractor and the electricians out there, and I'm being told that they don't see anything at this point that they would have to delay the light being turned on at the Hinskins field by Friday. So fingers crossed, that's the last major component of this project. So since the last committee meeting, we've hosted 4 tournament events out of the ballpark, without lights in some of the fields, obviously. But I wanted to bring this point up. All 4 of those events, we caught rain events the night before or the morning of the tournament starting, and we were able to play. And those were all events that would have caused us to rain out. We would have lost everything. So the turf is doing and holding up its end of the bargain, and it's everything we expected it to be, and we got us where we need to be in attracting the tournament companies to come to town. That same period, we had probably 2 weeks ago, we had a 5-inch rain event that came through Crowley that started on a Tuesday and ended on a Sunday. It was 5 inches of rain over 5 days. From that Wednesday, we had about a 3-hour break the Wednesday afternoon. There were no showers. We got a high school baseball game in. The Thursday, we had to stay off. Then we came back Friday, Saturday, Sunday. From the Wednesday night single game till 6 o'clock that Sunday evening, we played 22 high school baseball games between the two fields that we have, and it cost us $0 getting those fields prepared to play those games. With that, we hosted 4 teams from Acadia Parish. We had 3 teams from Lafayette Parish, 1 team from the parishes of Iberia, St. Landry, Evangeline, Point Capite, and Rapides Parish that all sought out Crowley to play their games. District 7-1A, which consists of St. Ed's and Eunice, Sacred Heart of Ville Platte, Opelousas Catholic of Opelousas, Westminster Christian Academy of Opelousas, and Catholic Point Capite of New Roads, all voted and decided as a district to come to Crowley and play their entire district schedule that weekend. So, I mean, these people drove 2 hours to play 2 games on a Saturday and Sunday in Crowley because of the turf. So, we do have another tournament this weekend. Thank God. We're expecting 60 teams again this weekend. The staff, my hat's off to the staff. We're blowing and going. We still have challenges that I'm sure some of you have heard from our local business owners of filling spots and getting things going, but we're pulling through. It's a challenge, but challenge accepted nonetheless, and we move forward. Any questions for me?
Mr. Crater?
Yep. That's not working at all. There it is, okay. Just a food for thought, I pass by little parks all the time, and I don't know how anybody can find Mustang Field or Bronco Field if they're told to go there, and especially coming from new roads. Is there some way, has thought been given to putting signage up to direct all of these people, these 3,000 or 4,000 people every weekend, to maybe go down our wonderful downtown area instead of possibly going down Elm Street to get to Miller Stadium or something like that? We need a lot of signage to try and direct these people, and then once you get to the park, you have no idea where you're going because nothing is, even Mustang Road doesn't have a sign on it. So maybe something on the interstate, you know, how they have the blue signs, and maybe, you know, something directing people how to get to the ballparks and try and funnel them down our downtown so they can see what we have. Just a food for thought.
Yeah. Mayor, I think has something.
Yes, and it's something that we have discussed already. And just to let everyone know, even Mr. Mayor and I, we've even got in touch with people from Baton Rouge to try to be able to put one of these signs out on the interstate to whatever ballpark it's going to be called or whatever at that point. And they told us that we had to have a certain amount of population that would be approved at that ballpark for that year. It could be still a possibility, and but we have to have some terms to be able to justify that number of population that they're looking for. So once we have these tournaments and get about approximately how many teams are coming, how many people would actually show up, that could very well happen. And we did talk about some small signs, just like you would look on to have the Zydeco byway bypass. So we're looking at getting some small signs, have someone to design it. Mr. Reggie, we had spoken about it, that's right. Mr. Reggie is going to be so kind in helping us design that. And it's going to be some little signs with ballpark, baseball, whatever it may be. And we're going to start putting them from I-10 and heading south to the ballparks. Yes, that is in play.
Ms. Stringfellow?
Thank you, Chair. Peter, do you know what they're gonna do with the dirt, the leftover dirt?
2 parts. Geo, when they're done part of their cleanup, that dirt is going to be used to go and backfill the ruts and the holes that they left in our existing. I also had plans for it at the Martin Luther King Center. By the baseball field, there's a oak tree patch, and it holds water so bad that we go sometimes a month without being able to cut right there. So I wanted to relocate some of that over there, and underneath the pavilion area, it holds water at the Martin Luther King Center. So I had plans to fill in some of those little areas if they don't use it all there in our facility. Yes. Also, special thank you to Councilman Reggie. He doesn't want to hear it, but he came and repainted our sign at the Recreation Department one Saturday. I really appreciate it.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, next was City Engineer Tim Mater.
Thank you, Mr. Primo. My report, no action items. It begins on page 25, and I want to update you on the item 4, which is on page 26. That is the renovation and repair of the Rice Festival building. That is the subject being the $200,000 capital outlay funding that Representative Stefanski secured last legislative session last year for the Recreation Center. I reported to you at your last meeting that we were hopeful a change order, we call it change order number 1 at the time, could be enacted to put the replacement of the roof at the Rice Festival building in the Habits contract. We proposed that to facility planning and control, and we were told that that amount, the $200,000, exceeds what their regulations would allow as a change order in a contract of that size. So we were not allowed to put that replacement of the roof and spend that $200,000 under the Habits contract. What we're doing now is we're working through Representative Stefanski to clear another hurdle, and that is to technically satisfy facility planning and control that replacing the roof is a process that is a repair to the building. Seems like a no-brainer to me, but they didn't accept the initial request as it being eligible in the original grant application, even though the original grant application was repairs to the building. So we have to get Representative Stefanski's help in getting that point across. Assuming that we get the point across, then we'll get the architect to prepare a set of plans and specifications, a lot of work that wouldn't have had to been done that way, and go out for bids as a separate project. No action, that's the status of the replacement of the roof and the $200,000 grant. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other, anything else for Rec? Then I will recess.
Thank you, Mr. Bigelow. Next is zoning and annexation, Mr. Fogelman.
Thank you, Mayor. It appears all members except Mr. Martin are present. Mr. Mayor, do you have anything for zoning and annexation?
Only the updates that are in my report, nothing specific, no action items.
Under action items, we have a favorable recommendation of the Crowley Planning Commission for variance of ordinance 7.701 for Bass Limited to erect 2 digital billboards, with one being at the southwest corner of Highway 1111 and Tower Road, and the other being located at the northeast corner of North Parkerson Avenue and Oddfellows Road, with the following stipulations applying to both billboards. Each billboard not to exceed the size of 12 feet by 24 feet. Each billboard not to exceed an overall height of 37 feet, and one side of the billboard being electronic and the other side of the billboard being static. I would like to really hear a little bit more about this, actually. If you don't mind sharing with.
The only information that I have, Mr. Fogelman, is that I understand that it is going to be electronic, and it's going to be very beneficial to the city and other people who want to be able to utilize it. Of course, I'm sure they're going to have costs, related to advertisement, but the city would be offered, if I'm not mistaken, the city would be able to post anything it would like to in city-related business or whatever it may be, or our announcements.
Do you know how long?
For a fee, are we So they would waive the fee for the city. Or do we gain any monetary value for them having their billboards there?
I'm not familiar with that.
How long would this be? There's gotta be a contract for the emplacement of these signs for a specified amount of time.
I don't have all the specifics, but from what I understand, some of the details, if people where they have it at, they sell their property, I think the sign has to be moved. The billboard has to be moved, if I'm not mistaken.
Behind you.
Mr. Tracy.
So,
I'm sorry, Chair.
I'm sorry, so I may help you with this. First of all, I am against it, so I'm publicly against it. They have came several times to me to try to lease a spot in my parking lot, which is across the street from McDonald's, and that's how it works. It's usually a long-term lease, 50-year, so I don't know, it'd be up to them. Once they get this permit, they can go to the property owners and try to lease that spot. I was actually driving through, a couple weeks ago, coming from the north, in the town, and I was like, you know, with the exception of one billboard that is around 10th Street, 9th and 10th, our city really has no billboards, and I was proud of that. And sometimes after the weather, after hurricane, and it's just a fact of nature, but these billboards just flap in the wind, and it just looks bad for a while. And I understand, we got signs for companies that look bad too, but do we really want a 12 by 24 blockage? And I get it, you can advertise it. Will I advertise on it? I don't know, maybe, but I'm still against it. But, you know, we gotta advertise. I think it's something that we need to really reconsider, considering our little town. Maybe by the interstate, I know there's one, Tower Road and 1111. Okay, that's out there, but, that's by the interstate, I believe. So that may not be so bad. But do we really want something in our town, which is Oddfellows and Parkinson, which is, I think that puts it at the old PJs?
Yeah.
So, I mean, do we really want a 12 by 24 billboard there?
Sam,
I guess my question is, would this be like something you do for public hearing to get some people to come in and talk about it?
No, it's advertising.
Well, no, what I'm talking about, like, with this, for
Oh,
us,
right, and I asked if we could do, if this is a public hearing. It's not. It's not for public hearing. This is they're asking for a variance to allow it. It's much like if I need to use less parking space in my parking lot, and I need to get a variance to use 8 spots instead of 10. They're just asking for a variance.
I guess what I was saying was, I'm not against your opinion, I just wanted some extra opinions too.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's all I was saying.
No, I agree.
I appreciate your opinion.
You know, and so,
Right.
Yeah, I'll also let you know is, one static side, which would be typically a banner that's in place, and then the other one electronic. Which side would be would be facing north, would it be facing, south, but they're bright. And, we talk about the size, but you also look at the height of up to 37 feet. Just things I would like to find out about, more details regarding the land lease, the lease I've seen, with a lot of these, advertising billboards, it goes with the land. The only time they really move is when a roadway project comes in, but they're typically replaced on the land. But, just questions I have also.
yeah, and each time they came to us to lease our property, we flat out tell them no, we just, sorry, we're not interested. It's really not cost effective either for the landowner, but sometimes it is, if it's a field or whatever, but parking lot wise, you lose it. And then, if y'all will note, and I may be wrong, so I don't want anybody from the company to come after me for this, but if it's max height 37 feet, okay, max height 37 feet, and the size is 12 feet in height of the sign, that is 25 feet in the air before the sign hits. That's blocking most retail signs. So if you put one on the corner there, whoever redoes PJs, whatever comes there and puts a sign, that billboard's gonna directly block that sign. I'm telling you right now, it's gonna block it. And you're gonna block that other sign that for AutoZone and everything. And y'all gonna hear from AutoZone and those other companies that parking lot.
Mr. Phil?
Thank you, Jim. I would say that we table this until we at least know more about it. Seems to be a lot of questions that we have.
I'll supplement that with, I'm really not a fan of this. I don't know where this benefits the city. It's just a big billboard that somebody's gonna make a lot of money off of and not us. And I would move to table it if somebody would like to second.
I'll second.
Is there anything else to come before zoning and annexation?
Oh,
You got a vote, I'm sorry. Okay, all in favor of tabling? All opposed? Motion carries. Anything else to come before zoning, annexation? No, we recess.
Okay, thank you. Next is public safety, Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Mayor. I've called on the Public Safety Committee meeting. All members are present except Vernon Martin. And on the reports, we'll begin with Chief of Police Jimmy Broussard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to keep it very quick. Public Safety Committee report from the Police Department from May. Crowley Police responded to 937 calls for service in the month of April. Included in this number were 13 domestic abuse battery calls, 124 disturbance calls, 67 suspicious persons, 52 suspicious circumstances, 40 accidents, 10 attempted suicides, 9 simple batteries, and 10 calls for illegal use of a weapon. Our narcotics division has done 3 search warrants in the month of April on known houses where illegal narcotics are being used and sold. 50 citations were written by officers just for traffic this month alone within the city limits. Ted had a total of 82 citations in addition to those 50 citations. We have lost 2 officers but hired 2 people to replace them, one of which is both certified. We may possibly have another loss, but we have applicants waiting who have been interviewed already.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief Broussard? No, there was somebody from the audience.
My name is
Please press that button down there.
My name is Reese again. You see my face? I got pistol whipped on Findale Street about 14 days ago. Officer, the guy that hit me with the pistol got caught with a shot himself. And the officer went over there and took the bullet out the gun and left him with the gun. I was working on his vehicle. I got tired and I told him I wanted to quit. He said, I'm gonna give him a legal tank on the ground. And I said, his parents would kill me and I'm gonna leave. I picked him my tools up and hit him in the back of the head with the pistol. This guy shot himself with it already, so what thing gonna do me? He come out of his house with a gun around on his hand, wrapped in rubber bands like these. So I choked him, and I had to get him first because they have a cop back. And then all I'm saying is one thing, why the officers not doing their job? When you call it on the service call, you're supposed to confiscate all the weapons. You don't leave a man with an empty gun when he can go back and buy more bullets. And I mean, I got 8 stitches here, 6 stitches here. I just got them took it out this morning. I came to file charges, and I got like that. I came here and filed charges on this guy, and they locked me up. But I had a warrant that was 3 years old. My fault, I didn't pay my fine. Anyway, so many words. Our job, the officer's not doing his job. They confiscated a shotgun and left him with a handgun with no bullets in it. Like he can't go to the store and buy new bullets. That's all I can say. He lived 3 houses from where the deputies that work at the factory. 3 houses from him. And we wonder why we can't walk the streets at night. I can't walk the streets at night. I feel threatened when I walk the streets at night. I feel threatened, for real. People are driving up and watching me. Can't see it. Can't walk the streets at night at all. Go in at 9. I stop at 5 working, I go home at 9, I stay in the house till the next day. Get up at 7 and I go run the track or run the neighborhood, I don't feel safe at night. I don't feel safe at all. I'm sorry.
Yes, Chief Russo, make a
Mr.
response.
Leday, you said that was Findale?
Yeah,
That's down here off of American Legion Drive?
I didn't see them.
That's not in our city limits, sir, so that's not our jurisdiction.
I know about the jurisdiction, but the way I look at it, Crowley is one town. And I think you got to work together to get the guns off the street, you know?
And we are working together. I just wasn't aware of that situation,
I
but
made
being
a
inside our
vow, I made
jurisdiction.
a vow, the guys on the street, I talked to them, I say, sell a gun and buy a car. And what I'm doing right now, I'm fixing the cars up, they like to copycat each other around Crowley. If you notice that, one person wanna outdo the next person, in West Crowley, you know? They all got gold stripe on their car, you notice? They all got the gold stripe on their car, they all came off of my homeboy car that I fixed up. And I'm gonna open a tire shop in Crowley. You know, and it'll be alternate tire shop. My grandfather he gave me the property to do it. And I'm trying my best to clean up Crowley, literally myself. I pick up the trash around here every day. If y'all notice me, you see somebody jogging on the side of the road that you need. Pick up the trash at the same time. And I gotta hold a couple of guys that don't want me to pick the trash up. I pick them up and put them in the trash can. I'm serious.
Well, thank you, Mr. Leday. I appreciate your presence here. Sorry about your injuries and incidents that happened.
Well, it's a learning experience, you know. Learn not to trust nobody.
We will make every effort to make Crowley a safer place. Thank you, sir. Chief had one text message from citizen wanted to know, regarding blockages and dominoes, but this time they're referring to street barricades. I'm not aware of, is it construction?
There was one time that street barricades was used for a particular party that was of a large volume, and for the safety of, not only the people gathered there, but also, you know, our citizens, and for traffic control. Those barricades were used, but it was only that one particular incident. We've also been in touch with, the owner, I apologize, I'm having to see him on here.
That's okay. That's
Mr. Domino, to arrange something different, should he have a party of that volume again, that it wouldn't create that situation.
okay.
So, so the answer to that was yes. One time there were barricades used because of this particular site, but we had been in touch with Mr. Domino to try to make different arrangements of some sort when it comes to something like that again.
Thank you. I think that answers the question. Okay, we'll move on to Fire Chief Louis Romero, who is not present, but I do have his report that I'll be happy to read. During the month of April, 5 structure fires, 5 fire alarm calls, 18 EMS, 1 mutual aid, 2 grass fires, 1 hazmat, 1 extrication, 1 vehicle accident, 7 public assistance calls, 0 police assistance calls, and 2 vehicle fires. Total calls was 43 for the month, and the average response time was 3 minutes and 27 seconds. And Mr. Tony Duhon with code enforcement is absent as well, and provided me an email with his report. Code enforcement report for April: 4 demo permits with locations at 1817 Cherry Street, 1206 West 8th Street, 585 North Parkson Avenue, and 1008 West 11th Street. And he has proceeds on the list of condemnation through City Council, demo complete. Amen. Close parentheses. 4 new residential home permits, 3 swimming pool permits, 8 repair permits, 8 gas permits, 1 alteration permit, 1 fence permit, 1 antenna located off of North Cherokee Road, code enforcements, total 23, work orders, tall grass, sanitation, uninhabitable structures, abandoned vehicles, and 59 animal control calls. I'll see if any further information is needed. Respectfully, Tony DeMarco. Under beer and liquor licenses, we have none. On the agenda, I would like to allow the individuals who want to speak tonight come forth. Detective Ron Temple of the Crowley Police Department, if you indicate you would like to address the committee.
My name is Ryan Temple. I am a sergeant with the Crowley Police Department and a detective. I specifically do juvenile detective work, in addition to being one of our 4 detectives under the supervision of Captain Melissa Withers and Chief Broussard. Tonight, I want to bring up an issue that I really honestly just want to raise a red flag. And I want to plead with you for help. We are watching on the news on a regular basis in large cities across America where crises are unfolding. Cities are being burned and riots are happening, lives are being taken, commerce is being lost, buildings are being destroyed, and it's happening all over the place. And we say, well, I'm glad that's in the large cities. It's not happening here. But now we're starting to see that trickle down into mid-sized cities, and I'm raising the red flag and guaranteeing that this is coming to smaller cities, and we're already feeling some of the weight of those crises going on. The kinds of crimes that are taking place right now in our small town of Crowley is becoming more severe by the day, it seems like. And so I'm begging, and I'm going to kind of give you a plea that we do something about it. I'm going to ask for 2 things tonight. And I'm coming to you with absolute humility. I don't have all the answers. Matter of fact, I may not even have any of the answers. I'm not coming to you saying that here's the solution, all you got to do is pick it up and run with it. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that there needs to be a table that all of us come to and address this issue, and I believe that it's going to take more than city council members. I wouldn't expect the city council members to have the answers either, or you, Mr. Mayor. I don't expect any of you to have those answers. I expect us to be able to say, we'll set aside any kind of political differences or problems that we may have with each other and come to the table and at least address the elephant in the room. Last year, and I want to begin by saying this, last year at this time, I was a participant in producing a video that was somewhat insulting, I believe, to both the mayor, the administration, and to Ms. Fontenot and her husband who worked for the city of Crowley. And I was unaware of some of the things, I was unaware at that time, Mr. Fontenot was the husband of Ms. Fontenot. Since that time, I've had to apologize for that video because I believe that, yeah, there was some issues that needed to be addressed, but that wasn't necessarily the best way to address them. But God has gotten, and I want to go further than that because I want to make that public apology right here. I don't think it was enough just to say I'm sorry to her, and it's really not enough to say I'm sorry to this crowd either because it was online. But I want to offer that apology, and I think Ms. Fontenot was in the room. I have gone to her personally and asked her forgiveness for that, for the hurt that I caused to her, but I also want to apologize to the city of Crowley as a whole, because I could have addressed the problem in a different way. God got my heart, got a hold of my heart on May 15th of last year, approximately 2 weeks after I did that video. As a matter of fact, we were about to produce another video to ask the city of Crowley to begin looking for a juvenile who had escaped from juvenile detention. And the night before we were actually going to produce that video, I was called out for the death of that very juvenile. And I stood over his body. And the last thing I had told that juvenile was that one day I would stand over his dead body. if he did not change his course of action and correct where he was going in life. And it hit me personally because I am sworn to protect the citizens of our city. And I know that I can't protect every citizen. I know that I can't put an end to every crime. But I take it very serious, the calling that we have on our lives as police officers. And so I want to run across the statistics that I know were mentioned last month. I just want to remind you of those statistics. And what you do know, if you've heard those statistics, but what you don't know is that the person who compiled those statistics is me. I'm the one who actually put those together. And so I spent hours compiling those things so that we would have been able to track the issue that we're facing. And I started looking into the shootings and the crisis that we were facing in the city of Crowley on May 10th of last year, because it was one particular shooting that opened up a can of worms. And on May 10th, one particular shooting led to the death of a juvenile 5 days later, which led to the death of another juvenile on August 11th of the same year, which led to the death of an unborn baby on the interstate 11 days after that. And I believe that's enough for all of us to realize that the red flag should already have been raised, that there is already a crisis, that we are already in trouble. But as I went back and started looking at statistics, we have had, just in last year alone, from May 10th to December 31st, not even compiling the statistics of this year, we had 110 calls to the police department involving shots fired. I meant to bring a map with me because although it's small, I could show it to you individually. It is not a crisis that is centered in the West, like some of us might want to believe. Those shots fired calls have happened all throughout our city, in every sector, north, south, east, and west, white, black. It doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or woman. It doesn't matter whether you're young or old. It doesn't matter where you live in this city. The crisis is unfolding dramatically. And of 110 shots fired calls, 52 of those involved victims, whether it be people or property. And then we were able to receive intel, and I work 40 hours a week on the clock, as do the rest of our detectives. But I work 70 and more than 70 hours a week, working all through the night, receiving text and phone calls from intelligence coming in from us all the time, because it's that one piece of information that might save a life. And I can tell you this, that from the intelligence that we did gather, I don't know how many lives we've saved. But I do know for a fact that we've taken guns out of the hands of people who I knew for a fact were going to retaliate for different shootings that have taken place. So I hope that we're doing our job, and I believe that we are doing our job, and I know that all of us want to do a better job even. I'm not claiming the Crowley Police Department is perfect. We have been in the news enough lately for problems. But I do know the hearts of the men and the women who work there, and they echo what I'm trying to tell you tonight, and that is that we desperately want to change the culture in our city. We cannot sustain the levels that we are facing right now. And I am telling you, you may not recognize it now, but the city of Crowley is like the Alamo. We are standing strong right now, but if we continue without reinforcements and we continue without addressing the problem, we are finished. We cannot sustain the course that we are on. So of those 110 calls for shots fired, 52 involved victims, whether it be property or people. 33 of those we received intelligence gathering that proved that they were gang related. Before 2 years ago, we did not necessarily have two sustained gangs in the city of Crowley. We had remnants of gangs that were from Welsh and from Lafayette that influenced some things in Crowley, but that was it. This year, I can prove to you on paper, on video, that we do have two very strong, sustained, powerful, and growing gangs in the city of Crowley that not only include juveniles, but adults as well. They are growing by the day. As a matter of fact, we have put 22 of those, well, I'll say 22, we've made 22 arrests on homicides, whether it be first degree or second degree, or attempted homicides, whether they be first degree or second degree. And 21 of those have very strong ties and connections to those two gangs that I'm describing to you. One of those gangs is known as STK, which means shoot to kill. One of those gangs is called RVC, which stands for Roan Village Crew. One of those gangs that I've been able to track more heavily because they put more things on social media, at one time had about 25 known members. Now I'm tracking about 75 known members in the city of Crowley. I thought this was just something the police department was dealing with, something that we were just aware of. We went to the schools to start identifying some more of these people that had come through their hallways. And the principals were telling us, oh yeah, well, I've known about that gang for some time. We've been facing the problem. Well, there are two things that if the city of Crowley is going to not only survive but thrive, the police department has to be strong, period. And schools have to be strong, period. Which comes back again to us. We need to address this issue. So there's two requests I want to make of you tonight. The first one is this. We have a deep wound that has taken place in the city of Crowley. It is not a wound that is going to be solved overnight. It is not one that we can come to the table with one meeting and say, here's the solution, put it on the table and expect everybody to agree to it. It's not going to work that way. As a matter of fact, large cities across America have faced the same dilemma and have just literally either ignored it or just said they can't do anything about it, and now we see where they're at. And so I believe with all of my heart, every single person in this room believes in the city of Crowley. They believe that we can do something to change the problem. And I believe every single person sitting at these tables want to do something about that problem, whether they know how to or not. So I'm asking tonight, number one, with that wound that has been inflicted on our city, we do need more officers on the road patrolling. It's necessary. That's bandaging. We're stopping the bleeding by putting more officers on the road. We need more officers on the road. And technically, yeah, we do actually need more detectives because we work more hours than I even begin to tell you, but we're not asking for that. But I'm begging you to put more officers on the road. We have not increased the number of officers in the city of Crowley for 30 years. I want you to imagine trying to live and provide for your family without a wage increase over the course of 30 years. We've had increase in crime, but we have not had an increase in police officers. It's hard enough to keep officers on the road, especially when we are outnumbered so badly and we're trying to go home to our families. And so I'm asking you to put more officers on the road. That's bandaging. But I'm also asking for this. That's the first request. The second request is like it. I'm also asking that if you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm asking you, Mr. Mayor, and you council members to consider creating a special committee to address the cultural crisis that we are facing in our city. And I realize it spans much greater than we are. And I realize it's not a problem that you or I created. I realize it's not something that we are demanded to fix, but I think that we should care enough about our citizens and our future that we would want to fix it. So I'm asking to put together a special committee. It may be composed of members of this council. It may be composed, I believe it should be, of pastors in our community, of community leaders that are not sitting in this room right now, but people who have a desperate cry and a plea to help our city and our citizens. And so I'm asking for that we have an honest conversation, that we don't ignore this elephant, as we do sometimes, all of us do that we address the elephant, maybe even name the elephant, and then slap the elephant in the face a couple of times to really deal with the elephant in the room. I'm asking for that. I asked my son, I'm almost done, but I asked my son one time and a couple of his friends when we were at my house, I said, when's the best time to plant a tree? He was trying to put tomatoes in the ground. And I said, when's the best time to plant a tree? And of course, he and his friends gave me spring, summer, winter, and fall as the answers. And I told them the best time to plant a tree is 100 years ago, because we'd have a tree. But the people didn't think about doing that. And I want to challenge every person who's gathered here today that 100 years from now, the people aren't sitting around these tables and saying, well, they should have done something about this 100 years ago, but they didn't. And so I'm asking that we do that now, that we curb the crisis right now, that we at least address the issues, and we may not find the solutions, but at least try. At least try. In the Bible, I was a preacher before I was a cop, and so please forgive me for my, sometimes I preach, I'm so sorry. But in the book of Daniel, Daniel was known as a righteous man. You can't find anything in the Bible negative about Daniel. I know he wasn't perfect, but you can't find anything negative about him. I don't compare to that guy. I'm far from that. But Daniel said this when a crisis was upon the nation. He said, we have sinned. He made himself a part of the problem. And so I want all of us to say we. This is our problem. This is my problem and your problem and our citizens' problem. And it doesn't matter where you live or what section of town you're in. This is a citizen of Crowley problem. And every citizen, if one citizen's life is lost, we should care. And if one citizen of Crowley is in pain and suffering, we should hurt with them until we find a solution. And so I'm asking you to come to the table and to bring about these two solutions. One, more officers. We need it, desperately need it. And two, we desperately need to form a special committee to start addressing the problem. Thank you all.
Detective Temple, I just want to follow up and first thank you for your dedication and service to our police department, and certainly appreciate your apology earlier. I appreciate the content of your presentation. I totally agree we need additional police officers. When I first ran for office, crime and combating crime was one of the major issues on my campaign, and I will be continuing that effort going forward to get something done. Because we desperately need additional police officers to combat the surge in violent crime and criminal activity that is destroying our community and its people. As you stated, the number of police officers has not increased in over the past 30 years, which, that's what I understand too. However, the number of violent crimes and other criminal activity has drastically increased, and it's time we take action. During 2019, a Citizens Committee was formed to address public safety concerns, and I think you attended several of those meetings early on. Although that committee has been idle for various reasons, I would like to reestablish that committee to incorporate cultural issues as well as soon as possible, and certainly have your direct involvement. I know that you're stretched with 70 hours a week working, but you would be vital to that committee.
May I add something to what I had said a second ago?
Sure.
As we track these 75 legitimate gang members, I could take you to YouTube or Instagram or Facebook right now and show you either lyrics from a song or posts from Instagram that say they want to turn Crowley into Afghanistan, that they want to pile up bodies, that they won't quit until everyone is dead. And we just can't stand by idly and let that happen.
I agree with you. I had no idea until I began riding along with you guys on patrol and seeing what's really out there. We all feel safe and secure in our homes for the most part of us on this council, but I can tell you, we are surrounded by a lot of danger that needs to be addressed. And I totally agree, this is a Crowley problem, as a city as a whole, that needs help by the administration, the city council, the police department, and to have concerned citizens working all of us together toward a solution. And, again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Chief?
if I might, Mr. Chair, Detective Temple did tell you the hours that the detective division put in. It also includes patrol, because a lot of patrol officers came on their own free time last night to serve a search warrant on Narcotics House. It's just an example of, but I do want to tell you that those arrests have been made by both patrol and detectives, but our detective division has worked tirelessly. Just one case that Detective Temple worked, I know, was at least 1,000 pages. So I would like this council to know that we have, in my opinion, one of the best detective divisions, not only for a city our size, but I would put them against any city of any size. They have done tremendous work, and they continue to do tremendous work. They are amazing, and I'm humbled by the work that they do. So I would like to publicly, before this honored body, congratulate Captain Withers and her detective division, and also Captain Abear, the patrol division, all of our workers, but especially our detective division, who I believe is unequaled by anyone. So.
Yes. Thank you, Chief. We also have Detective Adrian Malone, who couldn't be present, but he did provide a letter.
Mr. Chairman, if we might, I just sent you a text. If we could we postpone that one just for a little while, sir?
Sure.
With your indulgence?
Sure.
Okay.
No problem.
Great, thank you, sir.
Okay, then we will move on. Under action, beer and liquor licenses, we have none. Action items, first action item will be to consider approving the request of Police Chief Jimmy Broussard for an appropriation of $13,690.41 from the general fund to the police department's budget line item 100-44-106, which is emergency overtime, for services performed during the Hurricane Laura event, August 26th through the 31st, 2020, and referring the matter to the Revenue and Finance Committee for further action. And I note that the federal cost share is 90% if approved by FEMA. And I so move. Seconded by Alderwoman Kim Stringfellow. Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Secondly, to consider approving the request of Police Jimmy Broussard for an appropriation of $41,443.69 from the general fund to the police department's budget line item 100-44-106, emergency overtime, for services performed during the Hurricane Delta event, October 7th to the 13th, 2020, and referring the matter to the Revenue and Finance Committee for further action. And again, note, the federal cost share is 75% if approved by FEMA, and I so move. Seconded by Alderwoman Stringfellow. Any discussion? Stephen?
On both of them, has it been, applied to FEMA for the reimbursement?
Chief, I think Captain Osborne indicated that, but I'm not certain.
Yes, sir. He has submitted everything to City Hall and Ms. Jones as far as the reimbursement for FEMA. I don't know that Ms. Jones has heard anything yet, or the mayor, but it has been applied for.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Third, to consider approving the request of Police Chief Jimmy Broussard for an appropriation of funds from the general fund to the police department's budget line item 100-44-337, computer/information technology, for the purchase of E4 software, and referring the matter to the Revenue and Finance Committee for determination of expenditure and further action. And I so move. Second by Alderwoman Stringfellow. Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Fourth, to consider approving the request of Police Chief Jimmy Broussard for an appropriation of funds from the general fund to the police department's budget line item 100-44-337, computer/information technology, for the purchase of 5 laptop computers and software for patrol units utilized during each shift, installation of mounting hardware and wiring in all police patrol units, and referring the matter to the Revenue and Finance Committee for determination of expenditure and further action. And I so move.
Second.
Motion seconded by Alderwoman Stringfellow. Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. And fifth, to consider approving the request of Police Chief Jimmy Broussard for the addition of 4 police officer slots intended primarily for traffic enforcement and referring the matter to the Revenue and Finance Committee for determination of expenditure and further action, and I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Alderwoman Stringfellow. Discussion? Stephen?
Okay, and you said,
Stephen.
Mike?
okay, I know it says primarily for traffic, but, Officer or Detective Temple, is that what he was asking for, or I think he was more or less asking for patrolmen, or?
Right, I think, I'm still here, but it was my understanding that allowing the new slots for new officers would allow the more experienced officers to assist with the criminal activity that's ongoing. And Chief, please correct me, as I understand, if these new patrol officers are needed to assist in other calls and so forth, they would certainly be available. Is that?
Yes, it's more of, it's not so much traffic as what we would look at as traffic. It is more of street crime, and patrol.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On discussion items, already covered number 1. Number 2, at the request of Alderwoman Stringfellow, clarity from Mayor Monsell on the Litter and Blight Advisory Board and its relationship to CAB, which is the Citizens Against Blight. Questions she would like answered by Mayor Monsell. Has the mayor called the members of the Litter and Blight Committee Advisory Board? Mayor, if you would like me to let you answer one at a time, or?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Has the mayor appointed a new president of the Litter and Blight Advisory Board? And reminder, this advisory board was voted on by the council and created by ordinance.
Okay, let me see if I can get it in order. All right, first of all, I'd like to recognize Mr. Richard Hughes as the chairperson of our steering committee on blight. And thank you, Mr. Richard, for everything you and your committee are doing. We appreciate it. And I do want to make sure and clarify that steering committee is specifically on blight, not litter. And I keep calling the word blight, it's uninhabitable properties. And I will separate them from this other committee, because this other committee is specifically litter abatement, okay?
Not by ordinance.
And I have, okay, all right, and I have appointed a president, chairman, whatever you may want to call it, whichever is the proper term, and it is Mr. Tracy Young. And after speaking with Mr. Tracy Young, we are going to attempt to get the other members, and he said he would be available in the month of June for us to be able to have our meeting.
Ms. Stringfellow?
Okay, thank you, Chair. So Mayor, Mr. Tracy Young will take over for Mr. Roy Giese on that panel, and y'all are going to get the other members, because all of the other members declined to continue, is that correct?
I'm not sure, I haven't spoken to him yet.
Okay, so you haven't talked to all of the other members?
Amen.
Okay, and it is by ordinance that committee, that advisory committee is litter and blight. So I don't know how you're gonna work that with CAB, but that's gonna have to be decided by you, and I had asked that last month, and so I'll try again next month and see. But, and if we can have all the members and have some more clarity by June on those two items. How they're gonna work together. I know CAB is not going to continue this. This is going to be something that they wanted to start and help us with, and then we were going to take this over. So that's why this other committee has blight in it. We changed that ordinance to include that word. So if you want to just make sure you have more information for us next month on those two items.
And we move on to number 3, at the request of Alderwoman Stringfellow, an update from the mayor on the status of the cooperative endeavor agreement with the Acadia Parish Police Jury regarding the surveillance cameras that will aid the police department in their investigations and assist in decreasing the city's crime rate. Alderwoman Stringfellow asked the mayor if he has spoken to anyone at the police jury about this matter.
Yes, absolutely. I have the same report I had last month. I have been in touch with the Acadia Parish Secretary Treasurer, Mr. Brian Borrell, who has instructed me both times that they do not have that grant available, or has been awarded, that the grant has not been awarded just yet. And before we can get a CEA, there has to be more information involved, including the amounts of those said grant applications that could be awarded. And I did at the last meeting, which I will say again, in contingents with that particular grant award.
Stringfellow.
So, Mayor, you spoke to Secretary Treasurer Brian Borrell since April 16th, because I spoke to him at that time and you hadn't spoken to him.
Yes, I did. I spoke to him, as a matter of fact, 2 or 3 times about that particular item, and amongst other items.
Okay, and then they had a letter ready to go, and you were going to, you told them that you were going to think about it, and then that time expired. So if they get the letter again, you'll be ready to go.
I was told, I'm not sure what you're being told, but I know what I'm being told, is by Mr. Borrell, and I wish he was here to be able to defend himself. And he told me that they're applying for a grant.
Well, they had applied for a
That's
grant,
correct.
and they had a
And they're
letter.
applying for another.
Yeah, they had, right. So
Yes.
that time
Yes.
period had lapsed because you took a while to get back to
And
them.
Mr. Borrell was going to be here tonight, but he could not get to be in Baton Rouge.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Chief Broussard. Is Chief Broussard still here? Okay, because I think he wanted to discuss one more item.
He's gonna get
That was on the report. Chief, you had, about to read a matter from the detective, I think you wanted to follow up with that.
I asked just for a time, if you could, Mr. Chairman, you and I and the mayor meet about that.
Oh, okay.
If we could take efforts, and you and I and the mayor will meet on that, if that's possible.
No, I think that's.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that said, any other legal items to come before the committee? And I will recess.
Thank you, Mr. Court Public Buildings Committee, Mr. Byron Lewis, we have the lead, Ms. Stringfellow.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor, we forgot about our cab representative, Ms. Rich Hughes.
Okay, yes,
We open up.
Reopen.
Yes.
reopen.
There we go. Good evening. Wanted to give you an update on where we are right now with the tremendous effort of Mr. Maynard and Katie Almond. We are in the process of putting together a map of the entire city and designating which properties are what we consider blight. We're not handing in a formal request to the city at this time, but because it would just be inundating for them to try to even handle 512 properties. But we're going to have this map and we're going to be publicizing it, so everyone can see what's going on and it's going to be color coded. So as the process moves on each property, people can actually get a visual, and then the people within the town, the city could actually see progress. And one of the biggest problems that I think we've found so far is that everything seems to be more of a put out the fire kind of attitude, and it's not code enforcement's fault. I mean, from what I can see right now, those guys are so understaffed, it's ridiculous. I mean, I want you to picture this. You're a mile out at sea in a 16-foot boat, and the boat starts taking on water. Now, you don't know if you can make it in shore on time before you sink, but you know you can sit there with a bucket and keep on taking the water out of the boat, and you're not gonna sink, but how long can you go that way? Tony Collins is the guy who's driving that boat, and he's having a hard time, guys. You need one more person in code enforcement. Now, I'll give the mayor a lot of credit for moving Tamika over to full-time secretary for those guys. They needed that. But those two guys can't handle this. We just have 512 blighted properties, let alone all of the other grass and junk and everything else that needs to be taken care of. We agreed, in the beginning part at least, to hand in 4 recommended blighted properties a week. That seems to be a hard thing to do even at that. And if you take 512 properties and you take 4 properties a week, you can do the math. It's gonna be like 5 to 10 years out before this thing is taken care of. That doesn't include the ones that come after the list was already made. So they're in over their head. And if you want this city to start looking like something decent again, you gotta get more help. The fines alone, now, Mr. Mayor, I've talked to you about this a couple times, and for me to become commissioned so I can serve papers. And we talked about it earlier today, and I was hoping you'd have an answer about that tonight. Is it still the same answer that it's illegal and we're waiting for Tom to decide?
Yes, sir, he's looking into it.
Okay, and what was the reason why he gave?
It was something technical, had to be because of, because it's a volunteer.
Okay, so why don't we solve this?
I don't want to speak for Mr. Reagan,
Okay.
rather him.
All right, so if it's a matter of a volunteer rather than a city employee, pay me minimum wage. Okay, I can serve 10 citations a week. And those 10, Mr. Core and I have been talking about the violations and how no one's getting fined. Okay, so all these people with grass, they're using the city as a landscape company. They wait 3 months, they go out there, they're cited for it. The city goes out and cuts their grass for them, sends them a bill for how much it costs to cut the grass. That's ridiculous. Why isn't someone hand these people a fine for $100 and say, now you have 10 days to get it, but you gotta pay this fine. It's a $100 fine for what you did, okay? And if they don't do it in 10 days, it's a revolving fine of $100 every day until they correct the situation. Simple solution to the problem. And then if they do it again, it's no longer $100, it's $200. And within our ordinances, we have the right to do that. I mean, it says it in black and white. The only thing is it's not spelled out for grass and junk and that kind of thing. But we need to sit down and write something up that's really black and white for code enforcement to grab a hold of and take care of. Let's see. We have established a list of speculative contractors, rather than going through the city and having to go through all the legal expense for everyone, to contact the people that we have on our list and deal with them directly. As a result, there have been 20 properties that have been purchased, plus an additional 2 that we just found out about yesterday. And these guys they're gonna take care of a lot of the problem that we have. Doesn't mean that we can slack off, but that's the solution to the problem. We're doing our communication with the citizens rather than trying to inundate, the city with all of this. And it's been mentioned to me and kind of irritated me a little bit that we're micromanaging. We're not micromanaging, we're just organizing. Nothing's been organized for years. I mean, honestly, if you ran a business like this, you'd be out of business in a week. know, I mean, you can't run a business by putting out fires, you gotta have a game plan. We know we have 512 properties right now. What's the plan to get rid of 512 properties? Or we just look at it like, okay, we're gonna take care of this one because someone's complaining about this one, that one over there, and nothing ever gets done. Or it gets done at a very slow pace. I mean, we did designate the routes to the rec center as being a priority right now, and we have handed in 6 of those properties, plus 2 drug properties. The chief gave me a list of drug houses in West Crowley. We need a list of the ones in South Crowley, that you're aware of. Hopefully we're gonna have that soon, because I got people telling me about that right now. But so what we're doing is we're doing 3 blighted properties on the way to the rec center and 1 drug house. 4 is not gonna cut it. I'm telling you, it's not gonna cut it. I've looked at it in 10 different directions. It's not happening. You know, we gotta make it 15 or 20. We gotta go aggressively at this. Now, granted, we can throw into the equation the contractors, and also we're meeting with Assist this week and seeing how much they can afford to be able to take off, you know, our hands or whatever, off the list, that is. And people can donate to Assist and get the tax write-off. And cooperation like that avoids everything that's going on as far as legal expense to the city and to the citizens, or to the property owner, I mean. You might notice down at the end of over the tracks and on South Parkinson, that big warehouse. The one that got, mangled in the hurricane, but always looked like Fido's, you know what, up to that point too. I've contacted the owner, very nice guy. He's gonna try to do something about it. In the meantime, Buddha contacted the fire marshal. Buddha and I went down there, took pictures of the place, and the fire marshal is now involved. And I was hoping to have some kind of report back from Buddha today about how far the fire marshal has gone with it. So we're handling that one in 2 different directions. I'm hoping that the property owner takes care of it, but he was telling me that he wants to rebuild the building. And it's like, dear God in heaven, that building can't be rebuilt. The fire department won't even go inside there because, you know, they're scared the roof is gonna collapse on them or something. So, we'll see what happens with that one. The mayor and I met with people from the church while we went down to Jennings at least and talked to a family member. The lady that was our contact person, she had passed away last September, but apparently, according to Mayor, you know, we gave her grandchild our, you know, his phone number and everything. Apparently, they have contacted you now, right?
The son of the lady who deceased
Right.
contacted me, and he was gonna try to get any member of that congregation or the board to contact me.
Okay. How long a period of time do you think we should give them
I'm
before we start
gonna
taking?
call them back tomorrow and see if there's any communication.
Right. I mean, I've got a feeling they're gonna kick the can down the road on it, you know?
And then we'll have to appoint a lawyer.
Right. Okay. Where are we? Okay, communication between our group and the town. Now, like I said before, I don't want it to look like we're micromanaging anything, because honestly, we're not. You know, we're not on a power trip. We're not trying to break anyone's chops. We're just trying to get this thing organized. And it was great that you brought Tamika over to, you know, to work full-time with code enforcement. But I can't stress enough, and I'll say it one more time, we need to hire at least one more person on. You've got to do it. It's not going to get accomplished if you don't. Okay. I guess the last thing is Mr. Crater took it upon himself to knock down a family house. He led by example. recognized, I think, by quite a few people in the city right now for taking the first step and showing people that this needs to be done. The embarrassing thing is the old Cajun bag, that weak building that the city owns. It's just as bad as anything else out there. How could we tell people, you gotta do this, when we're not doing it? The grass is that high. I mean, something's gotta give around here, you know? We can't just like ignore situations and just hopefully they're gonna go away, or, you know, how do you go about taking care of something and people don't have any respect for you when you're not doing it yourself, you know? I don't know what else to say about that. All I know is that we do need a fire prevention bureau that needs to be established so we can bypass having to go to the state for the state fire marshal, and Buda can become the base fire marshal so we can expedite things in that manner. I'll get back to you more on information and how to set that up, but probably by the end of next week I'll know more of the details on that kind of thing. And does anyone have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Kim does.
Thank you for all you're doing.
Let me stop you there a second. It's not me.
Well, thank
Honestly,
you for
people
being
working
your
harder than me.
being a spokesperson for your cab. Did the mayor speak to you about the litter and blight advisory board that was already established before CAB got involved in all of this?
No, we were aware that there at one point was one, and we were aware that they hardly had met. Or I can't speak for that, because I don't want to say something out of line.
So the mayor hasn't discussed that with you recently? The mayor hasn't discussed that with you recently, of the two organizations working together? Because this was comprised of citizens that volunteered as well.
Right, well, we've been contacted by some of those citizens that are pretty
Okay.
disheartened.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And the, as you well know, I had told you, the president, Mr. Roy Giese, had quit in December of 2020, and I didn't learn about it until March. And he had this email that I have resigned my position on the advisory committee, told mayor that failure on the part of the executive branch, code enforcement, and police department led to my decision. I will not be a party to that kind of failure. Thank you to each and every one of your help in highlighting areas around town which need attention. It is indeed unfortunate that when our information highlighting areas around town which need attention, I'm sorry, I repeated that, but no action was taken when we reported it to authorities. Again, thank you all for your involvement. And that was but the council didn't learn that committee was defunct. We didn't know that the president had quit, and that's why I continue to ask about it. Because when I ran, also, like Alderman Corr said, he ran on crime. I did as well, crime and blight. That was all I heard when I ran. And I've been sitting here for 2 years, and we just talk about it.
Well, if that committee isn't meeting, and it kind of seems like it just, faded away or whatever, those people are welcome to come work with us. I mean, and we're doing basically.
I would suggest that you kind of ask them, I don't get anywhere, but I would suggest that you maybe ask the mayor.
They're aware of us, Kim.
No, I would suggest that you ask the mayor about that committee, because they're organized by an ordinance. And they're also, and I applaud everything y'all are doing. This is not, an insult to you at all.
Right.
But this is just saying that we had started this already, and, COVID got in the way, and of course other things got in the way. But we had already started what y'all are doing now, and that group of people got very disillusioned with administration. And I just don't want that happening to you, and I want that committee to continue. And so I would just suggest to you to, ask the mayor about that committee, because they can help you as well, because they have litter in theirs. They are in charge of litter and blight, and there were probably 8 members, and they were just complete volunteers from our city, and they wanted to help the town. So, but thank you, appreciate it.
Sure.
I think the mayor wanted to respond.
Mr. Richard, thank you again. We do appreciate what you're doing. And then just to clarify what Ms. Stringfellow was suggesting or commenting on, in the last meeting that I attended with your meeting, with your steering committee meeting, there was a couple of comments made about litter, and you guys said we were concentrating specifically on uninhabitable.
Well, yeah, that's very true. That's our main focus, but with me getting permission to be able to serve, fines to people, we want to branch out into that also. I mean, that's what I was talking to you about the other day. If I go out and I take pictures of the place and get the legal addresses for everything, to bring them over to Tony, have him just fill out the form, and I'll go, hand the fine out. If you pay me, if the thing is that I need to be an employee, right? If that's what it comes down to, then Tom Riggin, says that's the way it's gotta be. Pay me minimum wage. And if it takes me an hour to serve something, okay, then that's $10, say, okay? I can serve 10 of them in a week. That's $1,000, compared to $100 paying me. Right now, we're 4 weeks out from when we first started talking about this. I could have made the city $4,000. And here we are still talking about it. And I just don't understand why it's taken so long for something as simple as this. I've had 2 FBI background checks on me to be a child advocate in the court system, be an officer of the court. I had it done faster than this. I don't understand what's going on with this. It just makes no sense. And that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anyone?
Okay. Any other legal matters to?
Oh, you know what? I do have one more thing. This isn't cab related. 2 years ago, I came in front of this committee, and I talked about 4-way stop signs over at Levy Park. I've watched numerous times little kids almost getting hit by a car or a dog or whatever it might be, a family dog or whatever. I also asked to have the new signs put up and everything. None of that was happening. I actually went down with a bucket of bleach and soap and scrubbed signs so people could actually see the speed limit. Okay, since then those signs have been changed. That's all well and good. The reason why I was given probably a no on the stop signs is because there would have been too much of a hassle, or the noise would have been too much for people to stop and then take off, and that it would be disruptive to the neighborhood. Well, me being the kind of person I am, I went down there, put down the tailgate of my truck, took out a decibel meter, and started monitoring everything. Police pulled up and said they had a report of suspicious activity. And then they asked me what I was doing, and I showed them the decibel meter, and they were like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." Anyway, it's just the opposite. I monitored 90 consecutive vehicles. The ones that went to the stop sign, the noise level was less than the ones that drove by. I don't care if you got a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit up there. They're not doing that. And someone's going to get killed. And I said this 2 years ago, and God forbid I got to be here 2 years later saying, "Hey, that kid got killed. Little Johnny's now buried." For the sake of putting stop signs up at every corner, that's ridiculous. I mean, I'm not looking for speed bumps or all the legal problems with that. Stop signs, you're not going to get sued over. And maybe you can save a life. I'm done. Thank you.
On that subject, Chief, you were supposed to do a study for me on 14th and Hour. How'd that go?
Actually, we've done it 3. I don't have the report prepared for you, and I apologize for that, sir. But I did 2 myself. Captain Troy Hebert did 1. Each time we observed approximately 40 vehicles. We sat there about an hour at a time each, at different times and different days, monitoring. The part that I find out, and like I said, I apologize, I didn't have a prepared part for you. One of the problems I'm finding is West 15th Street, which is the block over, is 25 miles per hour, but West 14th is 30.
But you also have a park right there that's 15.
We do. Now, monitoring that, and interestingly enough, we monitored it not by marked units, but by unmarked units. And all we would do is just, count the number of cars and the average speed. In all actuality, by the time they reached, where they were supposed to be, with the park, they were on at 15 miles per hour. When I did mine, once on Taylor and once on Huff Pop, both at the corner of West 14th, because I knew that was a problem area. As they would pass, they were approximately 25, 26, 28, which in a 25 mile per hour is a little bit above, but at 30, they were below. Even those that were like 32, 33, still in the 30 mile per hour zone. And the other thing I noticed was there were no speed limit signs whatsoever down that street. I don't know why. I'll be quite honest, I wasn't even aware of it until I sat there at your request. So my recommendations first is that we look at possibly reducing the speed limit on that street as well, to 25, and that we look at putting up speed limit signs. We can always put four-way stops at one of those intersections, but I'd like to see us first maybe address reducing the speed, particularly on West 14th, because you reduced it on West 15th.
I'm not necessarily looking at four-way stop, but at some point you should break off the clear path, either somewhere on 14th, because that's been the complaint that I've been receiving, is that they get on it and it's a clear path.
It is a straightaway.
And you're going straight through a park and to a school,
Mm-hmm. But, I think one of the first things too that we should is maybe reduce the speed on 14th and also look at, speed limit signs,
Ignorance does not offend.
I understand, I agree with you. As we always say, ignorance of the law is no excuse, but, we try to take also any account of those who try to be defensive in their actions as
So
well.
basically, your findings say it's not necessary.
I'm sorry, what?
Basically, your report would say it's not necessary.
I'm not saying it's not necessary. I'm saying we should attempt first to reduce the speed limit and place speed limit signs. I actually believe maybe at least one set of stop signs at one of those sections, either Tough Power or Taylor. But I think first we need to address reducing that speed and putting speed limit signs, then put the stop signs. But the speed limit must be reduced by ordinance. It has to be done by public hearing and by an amendment to the ordinance that's already existing.
Thank you.
Mr. Wright, one more thing.
Yeah, excuse me, Mr. Hughes. Chief, while we're on that topic of speed limits, our school zones have typically been 70 and 9, and now these children are getting on the bus at 6. I'm getting some information that the buses are speeding in that 6:30 range, and I'm just wondering, do we need to revisit school zone times for those speed limits to occur maybe from 6:30 to 8:30 instead of all the way to 9?
It's something we can definitely look at because you are correct. At one point, most of the children were not being picked up until about 7 o'clock or being dropped off at school, until at least 7:15, 7:20. Now we're seeing an earlier drop off because they're having to double up at bus routes from what I'm understanding now. So a lot of children are being dropped off, and you are correct, at earlier times. So maybe something that we definitely need to look at and visit, maybe with the school board as well, Mayor. I don't know what's the possibility on that, given Mr. Reshore, at least for Crowley, you and I, maybe visit on that, because they're having to double up on bus schedules, so a lot of children are, and you are correct, being dropped off a lot earlier than they used to be.
Yes. And I think, Mayor, on Southeastern Avenue, we had discussed this some time ago about the Redemption School being closed and the school zone signs are still up. What can we do there to, is there any activity?
I can answer that. That actually has to be done as well by ordinance, because it's already it's an ordinance that specifically denotes that area, so it's gotta be removed by ordinance as well.
There's still religion classes, and Notre Dame High School leases part of that. So.
But that's
Those traffic is not a bad thing.
right, right. Okay, I just had some concerned people that want to get some answers. Thank you. Mr. Hughes, I'll let you finish up.
I'm sorry, I forgot one thing. I know we had spoken about this earlier, Mayor. just maybe an update on what's happening with the two attorneys, so everyone knows what's going on. You know, the attorney for the blight judge and also the
Yes,
attorney
I hope to have an answer by Friday for both of them.
by Friday.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If we don't have an answer by Friday, can we put together a committee, 3 people from this group maybe, to actively go out and get people? Because you're a busy man, to do everything on your own, that's a hard thing to do.
I'm busy, Mr. Richard, but I have met with these people, and I'm waiting on an answer from them.
No, I mean, if they turn you down, that's what I'm saying.
Sir, if they turn me down,
Yeah,
I do have some other ones in line.
okay.
Are we gonna know by Friday as well?
Once I get an answer, Ms. Stringfellow, I'll let you know.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Chair, in reference to his request, and I apologize, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, in reference to his request for a 4-way stop sign, is that what you were requesting, Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Okay, there has to be something recommended at a particular time, because it is ordinance to put a stop sign. We just can't pop one up. And the chief will have to do a study of that particular.
And that would be, you're speaking of the Levy Park area?
The Levy Park, but I don't understand why there's not forcibly stop signs at every park, you know?
And I brought that topic up almost 2 years ago.
Right. I mean, kids
I
in
agree.
dogs, balls going down the street. you
And
know?
Mr. Chair, if I might add, after I first got elected, about a few months later after that, we noticed that all of the signs were located on the corners inside the park. Not in the park literally, but on the edge of the road. And by then, when a person's doing 25 or 30, and then they see a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit, and when they get to the park, it's almost too late. You know, there's kids crossing the road possibly. So we moved those signs on every single corner, all 4 corners, back in their respective lanes, 60 feet from the block coming to the park. So we did do that to try to help that.
But it still hasn't corrected the situation.
I understand, yes, sir.
And it was a good effort, and I
Yes,
agree
sir.
it was a good
Right.
thought.
It was an effort.
The fact of the matter is, they're still rolling to avoid Second Street, Highway 9. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other legal items to come before the committee? Committee recesses.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, I'm sorry, thank you, Mr. Court. Public Buildings, Mr. Wilbert, I believe, Ms. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Mayor. The Public Buildings Committee will convene, only Mr. Woolridge is not here. There are no action items or any discussion items. Does anyone have anything for the Public Buildings Committee? Committee will recess.
All right, thank you for sitting in. Next, Insurance and Personnel, Ms. Stringfellow again.
Okay, the Insurance and Personnel Committee will convene. We do have a quorum. And, let's see, the purpose for said meeting will be to consider that we only just have one discussion item. And I was requesting, Mayor Monso provide us information on the Crowley City Clerk position, because our, clerk resigned, over 2 weeks ago, I believe. Mayor, I will defer to you.
She did not resign, but she is going to retire, and her official retirement date is June 1st. I made some changes at the office, and we have people in place at this moment, and we are operating very well at this moment, and performing all of the duties necessary.
So so she retired, and her official retirement date is
It's
June 1st?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you think, that your council needed to know that?
Ma'am,
Did you think your council needed to know that information?
did I think my council members should know that?
Yes, possibly
I'm
know
not-
that information.
I'm not following you.
We heard about her, I didn't even know it was a retirement, thought it was a resignation, but we heard about that from various other people, and not from our administration, the
Yeah,
mayor.
well, that's, like I said, it's Ms. Crater's decision that she made.
Well, I understand that, but I'm not questioning her decision. I was questioning why our mayor decided not to tell his council.
Did not decide not to tell you. I don't understand why you're questioning that.
Because of transparency. It would be nice if you would let us know so that we can prepare. I mean, this kind of hit us in the blue, like I said, we found out
And what are
from
you,
various
and what are you
people
preparing for?
for what we need to do in the interim. Don't we appoint, you appoint
I'm
the
gonna
next
point, you
clerk,
will confirm, yes, ma'am.
and we confirm the
Yes,
next
ma'am.
clerk.
That's
Okay,
correct.
well, that may be information that we might wanna know.
And whenever that time comes, I will let you know on the appointment and the confirmation. It will be on the agenda.
No heads up ahead of time.
Yes, ma'am, you'll have plenty of time.
So Erin will be coming in to sign off things,
Erin-
for June,
Erin is
until
currently
June
on
1st.
vacation, but she'll be coming in on Fridays. Yes, ma'am.
Why is someone else's name on these ordinances and resolutions?
Because that particular person is an interim in which I placed.
An interim clerk? An interim deputy clerk?
An interim clerk, yes, ma'am, interim.
Do we have a date on how long that will be?
No, ma'am, I don't have a date for you at this moment.
So when Erin's back from vacation, she'll be signing June 1st?
She, like I just said, she'll be in on Fridays. She's taking vacation time.
Okay, I may be the only one that's not clear on any of this. And I am over insurance and personnel, and I find it extremely rude and unprofessional that you wouldn't have given me the common courtesy to call me.
I'm sorry that is your opinion,
let
but
me
however,
know.
I want to remind you that it is an administrative decision. It is not a
Yes,
council
it
decision.
is.
Yes, ma'am.
It is,
I
I
just
know.
wanted to make sure that you understood
I
that.
do
And
understand.
your boundaries
Believe me.
as a council member.
I
Thank
do,
you. Thank you.
yes, I do understand that.
Very good.
But I'm not the only council member that thought that was very unprofessional, but fine. Does anyone else have anything for the insurance and personnel
I
committee?
have a question about that.
Yes, ma'am.
If the interim fire chief was confirmed by the council, why doesn't the interim clerk need to be? Just out of curiosity. And also, will the city be advertising for this job and what are the qualifications for it?
Mayor,
Ma'am?
would you like to answer
Yes, are you asking him
her
or?
question?
Okay, that's to the mayor. Yeah,
Thank you.
That's to Mayor Monto.
And again, what is your question?
Okay, so my first question is, if the council had to approve the interim fire chief, why don't they have to approve the interim clerk?
Because it is an administrative position, and it is something that I do have that authority to do under the Larson Act.
But the
Once I
clerk,
make an appointment, and once I make an appointment, then it comes therefore to the council for the confirmation.
so what's the difference between the fire chief and the clerk with, I thought it worked the same way. They approve the interim fire chief and then they approve the fire chief.
Interim, what I'm speaking about by interim is within what we have going on right now.
Interim means between the time of the person quitting and you hiring a new person. That's the interim.
And that is a person who is actually a certified clerk, and she is very much certified from the state of Louisiana, and she is in that position
So
at this
then,
moment
okay, so then my next question
as a
was,
deputy clerk and a, go ahead.
so I didn't know the city had a deputy clerk position, but anyway.
We don't have a deputy.
We don't, I
Yes,
just
we
think
do,
so.
but go ahead.
Where is it in the job description book?
But next
And then
question.
my next question is,
We
will
have
the
a
city
job
be
description book.
advertising for this position and what are the qualifications for this position?
We'll make that decision whenever that time comes back, that comes up. And and I don't have it with me, but I do have policies and procedures and, for that clerk's position and their duties.
Can you please get with me as soon as you
Sure.
figure it out?
Yes, ma'am.
And I would just like to say, I have a copy of the budget and our job descriptions. And Mayor, I don't see a deputy clerk in the job descriptions. There's not one. You're welcome to try to find one.
Okay, thank you.
And also in our budget, you're welcome to try to find deputy clerk position in the budget. And I have a copy of the Larson Act, which says matters regarding officers. It says appointments. In the event of a vacancy, the mayor, subject to board confirmation, will appoint a successor. So subject to board confirmation.
Make sure you read the whole thing.
That is in the Larson
You
Act.
have the whole thing? You have the whole Larson
I
Act? with
do,
you?
I have the whole Larson Act with me.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm not the chair.
I'm the chair, so. Mr. Cabell?
I think the difference is Ms. Crater has not officially left her post. She is technically still the clerk, and it will be the clerk until her resignation in June will expire her employment. You know, we use the term interim, I think that acting would probably be a better term. I don't want to speak for the mayor, or speak for Mr. Reagan, but the difference, I think, is you have Ms. Crater, who still, even though she's on leave, as far as a vacation, she's employed as clerk of the city till June 30th. At which point, well, June 1st, okay, June 1st. Let's not split hairs here. No, the fact still remains, she is still employed as the clerk.
Okay, I understand that, but we had we had an ordinance and a resolution that had someone else's name on it. So, and this is the entire Larson Act. I do have the entire thing, and I've read it. So, just keep all those information in mind. Does anyone else have anything else?
Yes,
Mr.
okay.
Ford?
I think to clarify the issue, I think if we have a clerk that is supposed to be signed off as the official clerk, and someone else is going to be signing off documents, then maybe I feel that there is a legal determination that needs to be made. Therefore, I would ask the mayor to get the AG's office to give us direction on that, to make sure that anything that we approve, especially with the sewer user fee, with the sheriff's department coming up, I don't want to see something done improperly that will backfire
No,
on
sir.
us.
No.
And I would like to have a legal opinion rendered to us as soon as possible on that matter. Thank you.
Make it a motion.
Mr. Chair?
I'm not.
I'll make that
Mr. Chair?
motion. Yes, Mayor.
Actually, I have gotten a legal opinion already from our legal department. He has given me that legal opinion, and that person, just like Mr. Cabell said, that person is still the clerk. And also, whenever we need something else signed upon, we do have the mayor pro tem who can also sign.
Oh, okay, that's good. Okay. And I did ask the attorney from the LMA, and she emailed me back that the law provides that until the clerk is replaced, even if they move or retire, the old clerk continues to be the clerk. That, combined with the fact that the Larson Act requires that every municipality have an appointed clerk, generally means that the mayor and council work quickly to replace the clerk. So again, work quickly to replace the clerk. There goes my question to the mayor as to why he didn't tell his council that Ms. Crater retired, when she retired. That, combined with the fact that the Larson Act requires that every municipality have an appointed clerk, generally means that the mayor and council work quickly. This is a collaborative process. This is a collaborative process, whereby the clerk is recommended by the mayor and affirmed by the council. So until the mayor makes a recommendation, the law says that Aaron is still the clerk. Often the mayor and council will appoint a deputy clerk to be, the mayor and council will appoint a deputy clerk to be the appointed clerk until such time as they find a suitable replacement. I hope that the mayor and council are able to collaborate regarding this matter for all parties involved. Does anyone else have anything else for the Personnel and Insurance Committee? And the committee will recess.
Thank you. Next is Community and Economic Development. Mr. Reggie.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any action items, but I have a couple of discussion items. The first one was at my request, was to discuss a grant opportunity to resurvey the city of Crowley and to add residential and commercial properties to the current historic district and possibly extend the historic district boundary lines. Ms. Jill Habitz is here to address any questions that we may have, and Ms. Claire Doré is also here, who who is going to be writing the grant. Have a minute, please. I guess I'll have a couple questions whenever y'all.
Yeah, good evening, guys. We're here representing Crowley Main Street and Historic District Commission. First of all, I don't know if you saw it in the paper, Crowley Main Street has a new Main Street director. Katie Morrison started Monday, and we're excited to have her. She is a recent graduate of McNeese. She has a marketing degree. She's working on her MBA. She's full of energy, has lots of ideas, and we're very grateful to have her. She will be here next week to introduce herself, and she's looking forward to working with everybody in the city to help us do what we do, is grow and help our city thrive. So what we're here today is that we came across a grant. The Louisiana Historic Preservation Office every year issues grants to those municipalities that are certified local governments that have historic districts. And what we found in the last round, if you remember, there was a $55,000 grant available recently that came down from the National Park Service. The National Park Service has very strict guidelines as to what buildings in our historic districts that can apply for these grants. One of them is that they must be a contributing building on our historic national register. And what we found was that some of the property owners that wanted to apply for the grant, we found out that they were not contributing buildings. Even though they were built in 1940 or 1950, they were not contributing on Crowley's historic register, therefore they were not eligible. Because our historic district ranges from, is it 1887?
It's 1887 to 1931. When the district was created in 1982, that was the span of time that it would fall under. But as you know, 1982's been a while back. So now buildings that are considered historic by what we understand to be historic are not on the registry because they weren't considered back then to be historic. It's a big common mess. But getting them put on is not super difficult, but it is a process.
Yes. So there is a grant available to do that, to resurvey the district. And so we have reached out to different consultants across the state that specialize in this because we don't know, what are we looking at? How much is this going to cost? The consultant would charge $20,000 to go in and resurvey all the district again and hopefully maybe expand it from 1931 maybe into the 70s. That's what allow more people to apply for grants, be in the, apply for grants, tax credits. So there would be different advantages for them for that. And then also possibly looking at slightly expanding the district boundaries, maybe taking in more of West Crowley, maybe a little bit of South Crowley. But they have certain guidelines for doing that, and they work with the historic district, the National Register people, and they would come in and help us determine what would be best for our area and for Crowley. And so we would like, Main Street would like to partner with the city of Crowley to do that. It's a matching grant. The grant would have to be applied for by June the 1st. We have Ms. Claire Doré, who is willing to write the grant. And then Main Street and the Historic District Commission volunteers would oversee it. It's a 12-month process to do it and get it done. And so it's a 50-50 match. And so we're willing to put up half of the match if this, we'll hopefully partner with the city to do that. We think it would be, great economic development and open the doors for more people to apply and utilize these resources that we have. We think it's great economic development. So, y'all have any questions specifically?
I had a couple questions that I had talked to a couple people. So the first question was, they were worried that if we extended the boundary lines, let's say we take up a couple of these houses, they would have all these new restrictions on their house. My answer to them was, maybe you can say yes or no to this, my answer to them was, we're not gonna tell whoever about, for them to get, let's say, they wanna paint their house a certain color, they'll be allowed to paint their house whatever color they like, but if they wanna go toward a grant to help with that, they would have to do it a certain kind of way. So we're not gonna actually restrict anybody
say, I would assume that if you could expand the boundaries slightly, then the current ordinance that is in place, maybe that would, that would have to be adjusted, or that would now apply to them as well. As far as telling people what they can and cannot do, I don't think that's the purpose of this particular ordinance, and that was put in place years ago. I mean, we're talking about light in here, we're talking about that. The historic district is in place to hopefully preserve our historic structures, to encourage people to redo their houses and have the incentives available for them to do that. And there is a historic district commission here. We certainly make recommendations, but at the end of the day, they can always appeal to the council,
Right.
I think that's what the ordinance basically said.
And that was my second question. If
And of course, as you said, the issue is that if you're applying for tax credits and if you're applying for a grant that is paid with funds from the federal government through the National Park Service, well, then they must have to abide by the Secretary of State's, Secretary of Standards for Rehabilitation. So yes, they would have to abide that. But then again, if they don't want to abide by that, well, then they just don't apply for the grant.
Fair enough. The second one was kind of like we were talking about the blight. So if there would be a house, let's say inside the historic district where these lines would end up being drawn, the question was, would we still be able to have these houses torn down because, we don't want to say that, well, this house has to be torn down.
I don't think anybody would want to say, anything that the city is deemed uninhabitable,
Okay.
harmful, if it goes against public health, well, then the property's not salvageable, and the city says it needs to be condemned, well,
Right.
it's not safe,
Right.
it loses its
I just
historic
want to make
value.
sure.
And I don't think any reasonable developer would want to invest in something that deplorable.
At that
course.
point, you'd probably be putting more money into the restoration of the property than the property would be worth by the time you were done with the restoration. And I don't think you'll find anybody that's a preservationist that's gonna wanna waste their money in that sort of a way, so.
Okay. And I think as far as the council goes, there was, y'all might not even know this, but like the Rice Theater is actually not a contributing member. It's old. It was built like in 32 or 33, so it's just right outside I think there's a few houses in your district, Brad, that are not contributing also because they were built in the 50s. Well, once we actually, we have $5,000 still in economic development, so that's gonna be half. Main Street said they're gonna put in half, and then the grants for the other 10. They come back and they're gonna assess the whole city, and they're gonna figure out, they're gonna let us know, well, we might be able to move this line here, or draw that line there. And there'll be houses and commercial structures that may not have been in there, but can be in there now. So,
I'm just curious, with a survey, also look at the ages, like you were saying, it may bump up the ages of the structures to where they don't fall within the historic limits now, but if we went up to like 1950, for instance, it would include, so that even the mapping would change the footprint, but there also, the survey would include the structure themselves.
Yes, sir. There's a number of structures that we have deemed they are pretty historic, that they're 1940s and 1950s, that they're marked now as they call them intrusions, which means that they're in the historic district, but they don't contribute to the historic district. Those structures would then have their intrusion status taken away, and they would be considered contributing structure to the district.
and that would help out with somebody wanting to restore maybe something. Ms. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Chair. Do you know if the firehouse is in that?
It would be, once they get it redrawn.
It isn't now, but it would be.
It would be, and so the Rice Theater would be as well.
Correct. Because it was done in 82, so 50 years before that was like 1931, so that'd be 1930 and older, but now we're 2021, so now you get everything up to probably, 1970?
71, I believe. is
Yeah, so you get everything up to 71, and maybe in 20 years, they go up to 91 or something. You look at
And
that.
they don't extend your district indefinitely. Once you extend your district past the point which they call point of economic interest, or it has to be historically significant to your city. So you
can't go the whole way, in 100 years, McDonald's will not be a historic structure. It has to have some kind of meaning to the town, and the thing that we're looking at here is that the city of Crowley had two booms. We had a boom when we were built, and a boom in the 30s, 40s, 50s, when another big batch of buildings were built, and you can physically see the line in the types of structures that exist in our district right now. So that is what they're looking at, to be able to determine those two time periods where we saw an economic increase by looking at the structures there. That's all.
And that's pretty much what the meeting was for. It's almost administrative. Claire's gonna write it, and then they're gonna put in some money. We have the 5 in ours already, but like for you guys' districts, y'all probably gonna pick up a few people. So that would be some questions before they even ask them, you already have the answer. Oh, look, only if you're applying for the grant, that's where your restrictions are gonna come in. So,
Historic districts kind of exist as this little entity that can give you these opportunities if you want them, and act as a guideline for, hey, if you want to keep the historic character of your neighborhood, this is how you go about it. But they can't act as this kind of like strong arm to force you to do anything with your property, because at the end of the day, it is your property. You do own it. So we can make suggestions, but we're not here to boss people around or anything
Right.
like that.
I know there's a couple of properties that said, like St. Teresa's Church and a couple other places here on the west side that are actually historically significant, but they're not in the district, so they might redraw some lines and get those in there as well. I was hoping Mr. Martin would have been here to be able to hear that either.
But he's listening with them.
Yeah, I think he'd be very in favor of that.
St. Teresa's is an island right now, because they got themselves listed, which is extremely significant, and to encompass them in the district, would just strengthen the district a little bit more, and just contribute to the amount of buildings that are counted in that overall count. We have over 200 structures already in our count, and it's going to swell close to 300, which makes us one of the largest historic districts in Louisiana, which is one pride. And I don't know, I'm assuming this council knows, but on a little tidbit, from my understanding, that Crowley was one of the first towns to get a district of this size on the national register. We had a historic district before New Orleans had a historic district.
It's one of the oldest districts,
Yes, sir.
So my question is, this would have to be forwarded to the Revenue and Finance for the appropriation of the $10,000 that y'all are asking for.
It's actually, it's already in my account, like it's in my economic development.
It's already been appropriated through the budget.
It's in the budget.
It's in the budget, yeah.
Well, that's easy.
What we were doing is mostly just trying to tell everybody about it, so if we had people in our districts that were asking questions like, oh, the historic district's gonna tell me to do with my house, you can tell them, no, it's not quite like
So
that.
what's the timeline here? Are we, like, you need it this month or next month, or?
Basically what happens is, we'll go ahead and apply for the grant. Nothing will happen until we know for sure we have got this grant, because that's what's gonna pay for half of it. If we don't get the grant, we put the brakes on and say, we'll try again later, because it pays the bulk of the price. So once we know that we've got the grant, that's gonna go, I believe it's due June 1st. Yeah. And by June 22nd, we should know whether or not we have it. And once they let us know we have the grant, we'll contact the consultant, and start the process. The process of actually paying for this is in chunks. They come in and do 3 separate sections of the survey, and you pay for 3 different sections of it. After that is all said and done, the state reimburses you the $10,000, and towards Main Street will donate the $5,000. So that will get the majority of everything paid for. So it goes step by step. It's a very, it's not a lengthy process, but baby steps, little bites, as far as to how you go about it. Because they're gonna go around and resurvey
He's
every
already-
building.
he's already
So
good
take
with it.
photographs, document it, everything on the state level is digitized now. So all this is gonna go into the state, it's a database. So now when people have questions as to, well, is my house that I just bought on the registry, they can go online, they can look at that database, and they'll be able to pull up all the information that they need. So that also makes the information more accessible to the individuals who live in the district, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, I love this, and I'm still curious about the Rice Theater and the firehouse. So if they're included, then that would go to the mayor to finish that, or how would that work? Do you know, Mayor?
Well, they would probably add it to the registry,
They
and
would
then
be
we
in the
would be able.
registry as a
whole registry gets, resubmitted, they would be included in that registry.
And
Which
then we've
means
been
they
able
would
to apply
also
for
be-
grants and stuff, because now we're
Right.
considered a historic building.
Right.
So that massive
Great.
national parks grant that, that Mr. LJ just got for the Eagle Hotel,
Mhm.
grants like that will become available to these buildings. So
Great.
you can
Okay.
take advantage
That's
of that.
awesome.
Right.
Thank you.
So this is more like an informative
Yeah.
session.
We just
And the
wanted
mayor's
to
on
come by
board.
and tell the council what we had on the pipeline, so.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies. Appreciate y'all. That's
Thank
right.
y'all.
Just for clarification, if a building, a home or whatever is put into historic district, that does not mean that it's on the historic register, that particular building. And it's the historic register that really limits what you can do to the building, correct?
The historic registry, the historic district registry, they operate as, they're shaking hands, but not.
That's what I'm told.
If the building is on the national register, it's gotta be really important.
That's right, that's what I'm thought.
Very, very significant. And that's when they start coming in and saying, you can't tear this down, you can't tear this building. That's like not good. That's like unfair.
Well, I mean, I've heard of people who had a slate roof and they put on a new roof and then they could no longer be on the historic register. And that looks like,
Yeah.
that will happen.
Do you have any more questions for the ladies? Anybody? Everybody's good?
Thank y'all.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
And then real quick, let's see, I got a couple things. Yeah, Crowley Main Street, the Orton Wine Walk will be this Saturday, May 8th, from 5 to 8 p.m. The event is free to attend. Wine tasting passports are $25 a person. Passports entitle you to wine tastings at 16 businesses. Pre-sale tickets are available through Eventbrite or through the Crowley Main Street Facebook event page. Wine tasting tickets will also be sold at the event until they sell out. Event registration will be in the courtyard across from City Hall. The 4 blocks of Main Street will be blocked for traffic beginning at 2 p.m. for event setup, and the proceeds from the event benefit the Crowley Main Street and the Crowley Art Association. And then the last thing would be that the city of Crowley is hosting the spring Louisiana Main Street meeting on May 26th and 27th. The meeting will be held at the Grand Opera House of the South. The meeting is a quarterly meeting for the Main Street directors across the state and those involved with the Main Street program. And if any of the council members is interested to attending, just get in touch with Crowley Main Street. And I think, besides, I just want to thank Val for helping us with that Clean a City. She's working on getting married, and she's doing all that and trying to get married too, working on all that, so I give it to her. And married too, appreciate it. We got it knocked out. I'm excited now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Kind of surprising.
More work to do.
Yeah, we have some more work to do. We'll look at that route again and clean it up a little bit better. Is there anything else come before Committee Economic Development? I will recess. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next is Revenue and Finance, Mr. Bell.
Thank you, sir. Revenue Finance Committee convenes. All are present, therefore we have a quorum. Purpose of said meeting is to consider under action items. Number 1, to consider approving the request of Police Chief Jimmy Broussard for an appropriation of $13,690.41 from the general fund to the police department's budget, line item 100-44-106, entitled Emergency Overtime for Services Performed during Hurricane Laura, event August 26 through 31, 2020, and referring to the matter to the Revenue and Finance Committee for further action. Note, federal cost share is 90% if approved by FEMA. I move that the question be tabled. Motion's been seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
We have, the ayes have it.
Wait. Stevens.
Number 2, to consider approving the request of Police Chief Jimmy Broussard for an appropriation of $41,443.69 from the general fund to the police department's budget, line item 100-44-106, emergency overtime for services performed during Hurricane Delta event, October 7th through 13, 2020, and referring to the matter to the Revenue and Finance Committee for further action. Note, the federal cost share is 75% if approved by FEMA. I move that the question be tabled. We got a second. All in favor say aye.
Do we get any discussion?
Not on the table, we did not discuss.
We did earlier.
No, we did not. We went straight to vote. Mr. Fogelman offered the motion.
We had a discussion on his.
Not on the table.
Okay, well, we did get a discussion now.
The discussion was made prior to the motion.
Go ahead.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
No. The ayes have it. Under 3, to consider approving the request of Police Chief Jimmy Broussard for an appropriation of funds from the general fund to the police department's budget line item 100-44-337, computer/info technology for the purpose of E4 software, and referring to the matter of Revenue and Finance Committee for determination of expenditure and further action. I move that the question be tabled. It's tabled. It's second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. To consider approving, number 4, to consider approving the request of Police Chief Jimmy Broussard for an appropriation of funds from the general fund to the police department's budget line item 100, correction, number, 100-44-337, computer/info technology for the purpose of purchase of 5 laptop computers and software for patrol units utilized during each shift, installation of mounting soft hardware and wiring in all patrol units, and referring to the matter of Revenue and Finance Committee for the determination and expenditure for further action. I move that the question be tabled. Been seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. And 5, to consider approving the request of Police Chief Jimmy Broussard for the addition of 4 police officer slots intended primarily for traffic enforcement, and referring to the matter of Revenue and Finance Committee for determination, expenditure, and further action. I move that the question be tabled. It's been seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. On the discussion items, at the request of Alderwoman Kim Stringfellow, the question is, has Mayor Monso started working on the budget for fiscal year 2021-2022? Mr. Mayor, you care to respond?
Yes, sir, and the answer to that is that we're always working on the budget. We are always trying to make sure that we are complying within our means and our standards. On 2021 and 2022, yes, we have started working on that budget.
Yes, Mrs. Stringfellow.
I just want to know why we are voting to defund our police department.
That's not on the table of order.
I'm just curious, why are we going
Ms.
to
Stringfellow, you're out of order.
follow the same trajectory as the entire United States and defund our police department?
You are out of order, Ms. Stringfellow.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. No other items coming for the committee recess. Oh, sorry, Mr. Brady? No, Mr. Greenwood.
No, I did want to make a statement which I had spoke to several people about before, that I would like to see these 5 items looked at and put into next year's budget, either all or at least partial into next year's budget.
With that said,
That can be discussed.
Yes, I just wanted to make that
That can
statement.
be discussed when we come into budget time.
And
Thank you.
How many other families are gonna come up before us? How many other
Revenue and
families and
finance.
how many other police
Close
officers are gonna
this.
come up
Recess.
to that podium? How many other mothers, Mayor, are gonna come up to that podium and talk to you about their child in intensive care?
I'm so glad that's funny to you.
It's not
Doesn't even
I
go.
do know what happens, you know.
Any social way.
Hey, Chief,
Sir,